The Terrifying Legend of the Great Devil King Part 1. Lingwu High School, the day before the psychic test. Luoshi, let's break up. Su Enmo hesitated as he looked at the girl standing before him. She was stunning, fair skin, long legs, and an ethereal beauty that made heads turn. For the past 3 years, she had been his unwavering support. Yet, despite the storm of emotions raging inside him and the nagging fear that this decision could cost him everything, he still forced the words out. The moment they left his lips, the air around them seemed to chill by several degrees. Even so, all Su Enmo could do was smile bitterly. Have you thought this through? Luoshi's voice was calm, her expression unreadable. Her skin was as white as freshly fallen snow, her eyes deep and clear like a still lake. She exuded an elegance so captivating that people couldn't help but be drawn to her. But there was always something distant about her, something cold. Yes, I've thought about it, Su Enmo replied, inhaling deeply before finally meeting her gaze. She remained silent, her face expressionless. Her delicate features, her flawless, porcelain-like skin, straight nose, and cherry-red lips, only made her seem more untouchable. Her dark eyes, deep as the midnight sky, held no emotion as they bore into him. She was Luoshi, the undisputed legend of Lingwu High School. Who would have ever imagined that the school's top genius, the #1 martial artist, the pride of Lingwu High, had been his girlfriend all along? More shockingly, she had willingly stood by his side for 3 years. I'm done with this, Su Enmo continued, clenching his fists. You're arrogant, controlling, and unreasonable. Do you think throwing spirit stones at me and guiding my practice makes me happy? Do you think giving up your own cultivation time for me is some kind of favor? You're too full of yourself. I've had enough. I feel suffocated. Smack. Before he could finish, Luoshi's palm met his cheek with a force that left his ears ringing. Su Enmo froze. She had always been strong-willed, but she had never hit him before. Then again, he deserved it. Without Luoshi, he would have died 3 years ago. For 3 years she had poured her time, resources, and heart into him without hesitation. And what did she get in return? A breakup, and words of ingratitude. What person could accept that? More than that, who in their right mind would break up with Luoshi, a woman who was not only breathtakingly beautiful but also fiercely devoted? Take back what you just said, Luoshi said coldly. I'll pretend I didn't hear it. Su Enmo stared at her stubbornly, saying nothing. A tense silence stretched between them, their gazes locked. For the first time, he wasn't the one to look away. After a few seconds, Luoshi shifted her gaze, her expression unreadable. But there was something different, something tired in her stance. If you insist on breaking up, then congratulations. You've succeeded. Her voice was soft, yet each word landed like a blow. Now leave. And don't let me see you again. Disappointment flickered in her dark eyes, cutting through Su Enmo more than her slap had. Then she turned and walked away, her silhouette cold and distant. Watching her disappear into the distance, Su Enmo felt his chest tighten. For a long time, he stood there motionless, like a statue frozen in time. When she was finally out of sight, the mask he had been wearing crumbled. He crouched down, burying his face in his hands. His heart ached. Not a single word he had spoken was true. Luoshi wasn't arrogant, she was protective. She wasn't controlling, she was just insistent on giving him everything he needed. She wasn't unreasonable, she only refused to let him reject her help. In reality, he had always been the one in control of their relationship. And who would willingly let go of a perfect girlfriend like her? The truth was simple. As long as he was by her side, Luoshi couldn't grow to her full potential. She had already sacrificed so much for him. She had poured her cultivation resources into him when she could have been using them to soar even higher. She had slowed her own progress just so he wouldn't feel inadequate standing beside her. And even while suppressing herself, she remained the strongest in their school. But she could have been more. In this world, one where power determined everything, Luoshi's talent meant she could rise to the highest peaks. Yet because of him, She was holding herself back. He couldn't allow that. Luoshi. I hope you achieve immortality and walk the path to greatness, he murmured, a self-deprecating smile forming on his lips. Because in this world, strength was everything. Elsewhere, Luoshi walked home, her figure graceful yet solitary. She moved through the streets like a passing shadow, unnoticed by those around her. Still not strong enough, she whispered. If I were stronger, he wouldn't have wanted to leave me. Her aura began to surge. A breakthrough, mid-stride. In an instant, she ascended past the 9th level of Hidden Yuan and into the Dongming realm. But she didn't stop. Dongming Stage 1. 2. 3. 9 consecutive breakthroughs. No elixirs. No assistance. Just sheer, overwhelming power. Had anyone witnessed it, they would have been left speechless. If I become the strongest, then he won't leave me, she murmured, a strange glint flashing in her midnight eyes. Something deep within her shifted. Her thoughts, her desires, her resolve. Everything was changing. Meanwhile, Su Mo sat in his room, deep in thought. If only I were stronger, then I wouldn't have to let her go. Suddenly, a mechanical voice echoed in his mind. Ding! Suitable host detected. Binding to the reincarnation system. Binding successful. Martial arts system loading. Generating role template. Reincarnation system rebooting. Su Mo's breath caught. A system? A flood of information filled his mind. He had read countless system-based novels, but never did he imagine he'd awaken one himself. Why now? Why only after breaking up with Luoshi? If I had this earlier, would I have needed to let her go? Su Mo gritted his teeth. Then, as if responding to his turmoil, a new function appeared, future simulation. Without hesitation, he activated it. Today, you broke up with Luoshi. That night, your sister was kidnapped by men in black. You attempted to save her. You were killed. Su Mo's heart stopped. What? He read the words again. Killed? Today? Why? How? His mind raced through possibilities. His family was poor, there was nothing worth stealing. He had no enemies. That left only one answer, Luoshi. Someone was targeting her. And they would come for him next. For a long moment, Su Mo remained still. Then, a steely determination settled in his eyes. There was only one way to fight back. Only one way to survive. Only one way, to stand beside Luoshi again. He clenched his fist. Reincarnation travel. With that, he activated the system, taking his first step toward a future where he wouldn't have to let her go. At 0 years old, you were born. You were born in an ordinary family with a loving father and mother. At the age of 1, you started to speak, and your cute appearance often made your parents laugh. When you were 2 years old, you started to take your first steps, and your father came back from hunting with a vicious dog. When you were 3 years old, you were teasing a vicious dog and your leg was bitten off. At the age of 4, the children in the same village enjoy bullying you because you are a cripple. At the age of 5, you are still bullied, you start to like playing alone, and your personality gradually becomes withdrawn. At the age of 6, you, a disabled person, had several thoughts of suicide. At the age of 7, you failed to commit suicide and your parents scolded you. When you were 8 years old, robbers came to the village and the whole village was slaughtered. Only you survived, being crushed by your parents' bodies. You were saved by a woman from the sword sect who passed by and was accepted as a disciple. At the age of 9, your master found medicine for you and cured your legs, but your foundation had been damaged and you had no chance to practice. At the age of 10, you refused to believe in evil and began to practice secretly, but your progress was slow. Seeing your hard work, your master guided you to practice. At the age of 11, you began to practice, but your progress was slow. At the age of 17, your master brought back another girl, who is your junior sister. At the age of 18, your master handed the little sister to you and asked you to teach her how to practice. At the age of 19, your junior sister's cultivation progressed rapidly. In just 1 year, you could no longer teach her anything. In a competition, she defeated you with a single sword strike. At the age of 20, you went down the mountain to gain experience and participated in the martial arts competition. Your junior sister's talent shocked the audience. At the age of 14, she was invincible. No contestant could stop her sword. In the end, she won the first prize. You failed to enter the audition in this competition. At the age of 21, your junior sister started to go on her own to gain experience, and you stayed alone in the monastery. At the age of 23, you were killed by the enemy of junior sister, and you died. Once reincarnation begins, it cannot be stopped, and there is a danger of death. Do you want to start the reincarnation path? Looking at the horrific life course in the simulation, Su Mo just felt a pain in his liver. Su Xian, even though you are useless, but who told me to be your elder brother? He murmured. This time, for Xiaoxuanzi, I bravely ventured into another world, but I lost a lot. I hope I can return safely by then. Instead of buy one get one free, Xiao Xuanzi thought that I didn't save her and took away her little treasury and ran away. Alas, what misfortune for this family! After hesitating for a while, Su Mo couldn't help but take out his mobile phone and sent a text message. Luo Shi, wait for me to come back. After sending the message, he felt an inexplicable surge of courage and clicked, confirm. Confirm! For this reincarnation mission, please change your own destiny and find someone who is worthy of being an empress, so that the favorability reaches 100, and the strategy is successful. You can return after completing the task. Reincarnation begins. Good luck to the host. A chaotic flow of thoughts came before his eyes, and Su Mo's consciousness fell into endless darkness. I don't know how much time passed. In Qishan town, you can often see an ordinary family's courtyard. A little kid about 1 year old would catch grasshoppers, ants, or occasionally step on some small insects to death. The little baby is delicate and looks very cute, but he has a steadiness that is not common at his age, and he is also very agile. It's really agile. In just a short while, the little kid has stepped on many insects to death. Ding, you killed a little grasshopper, experience value +1. Ding, you stepped on a caterpillar to death, experience points +1. Ding, you destroyed an ant nest, experience points +5. This little kid is naturally Su Mo after traveling through reincarnation. Apart from him, there is probably no other child who would be so cunning at such a young age. At this time, I heard the system prompt sound ringing in my ears. Su Mo's young face showed a hint of joy. This is another function of the system, the martial arts system. As long as you keep fighting and killing monsters, you can level up. With each small insect killed, experience points are gained, helping Su Mo become more powerful. Today, Su Mo is lucky. His parents work as farmers outside. The burden, who had suddenly stopped making noises and became exceptionally smart and sensible a month ago, was placed at home with peace of mind. The main thing is that Su Mo estimated the time and pretended to be asleep, and then took advantage of the free time when his parents were away to make a move with a somersault and cleverness. At this time, more than a year had passed since he crossed over to the reincarnation world. It was not until a month ago that he regained consciousness from his chaotic state as a baby. As soon as he woke up, Su Mo couldn't wait to show some of his talents, changing his previous unconscious crying. So that my parents in the world of reincarnation can let me play alone without worry. Now, his daily upgrade journey depends entirely on his parents' sense of responsibility. Fortunately, in ancient rural areas, parents often did not take such detailed care of their children. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been bitten by his own dog when he was 3 years old. He almost died. Su Mo's original body, listen to me and say thank you. During this month, with his parents busy, Su Mo had time to have a cordial and friendly exchange with the little insects. To date, Su Mo's progress bar has already moved most of the way, and he is only 1 step away from upgrading. A caterpillar thing. Host Su Mo. Age, 11 months, it is normal for a child to be able to walk before the age of 1, and they develop quickly under the spiritual energy of the high martial arts world. Level 0. Experience value, 99/100. Evaluation powerless. Hey, what I did was wrong. Protecting the environment is everyone's responsibility. Aren't small insects also lives? Looking at the ever-increasing experience, Suemo said in a baby voice, sighing repeatedly, feeling ashamed. Hey, there's another one here. As soon as he finished speaking, he stepped on him mercilessly. Bang! Accurate hit, clean and neat. Ding, you stepped on a caterpillar to death, experience points +1. Your level has been upgraded. A golden light flashed across Sumo's body, and a warm current swept through his whole body. Suemo could clearly feel that his hands had become stronger, and his body had become much stronger. Host Suemo. Age 11 months. Level 1. Experience value, 0/200. Evaluation, the power of a chicken. The power of a chicken. I love this evaluation, it's very intuitive. And the experience required to reach the next level has become 200? Seeing the latest attribute panel, Suemo muttered to himself. In other words, the experience points required to level up now doubled. Now, leaving aside the baby's main job, he can secretly step on 5 or 6 insects to death a day, and it is not impossible to dream of 10 if he is lucky. Therefore, upgrading to level 2 is just around the corner. This is my first upgrade. This feeling should give me the strength of a 6 or 7-year-old child. Suemo held her little hand and felt the power in it, guessing. The strength of a 7 or 8-year-old child, heavy stones and the like could finally be moved. But who would have thought that he was actually less than 1 year old? Then, you can upgrade the difficulty and find some harmful insects or poisonous insects. Suemo couldn't help but be anxious. Not only did he have a sister outside the main world waiting for him to save. The world of reincarnation is so close to him. When he was 3 years old, a disaster happened to him. But he did not forget the vicious dog that would bite off his legs. And when he was 8 years old, the whole village would be slaughtered. Who knows if he can survive this time? Time is running out, so he must be strong enough. Upgrade desperately. Soon, while his parents were still here, Sumo's eyes glowed with innocence, and quite scary, as he continued to look for his next victim. But in the following days, Sumo's good days came to an end. After autumn, when my parents were done with farming, they basically kept Suemo with them. Suemo rarely has the opportunity to upgrade secretly. However, during this year, Sumo's body grew stronger and stronger, and she became more and more beautiful, with fair skin and a quirky personality. He is a cute kid who is well known in the village. She doesn't look like a 1-year-old baby at all, but more like a baby over 1 year old. Until this day. Parents went out to work again, and Sumo had a long-awaited big harvest. Ding, you killed a centipede with a stone, experience points +10. Ding, you killed a spider with a stone, experience points +10. Ding, you stepped on a butterfly to death, experience points +5. Ding, you destroyed an ant nest, experience points +5. Ding, your level has been upgraded. Host Suemo. Age 1. Level 2. Experience value, 0/500. Evaluation, the power of 2 chickens. Yes, I have upgraded again and become the strength of 2 chickens. If I am given another 2.5 years, how strong will I be? I dare not imagine. Looking at the latest attribute panel, Suemo raised his hand and clenched it, feeling the surging power in his hand. He couldn't help but show a hint of joy on his face, and sighed. After all, which boy doesn't want to have the power of 2 chickens and sing and dance, rap? My thoughts gradually drift away. But then Sumo's face darkened again. Nah! It takes 500 experience points to upgrade to level 3. System, can you do addition? Even capitalists don't dare to have such a long experience bar like you. I gave up my job to feed my baby and started working as a wage earner when he was just over 1 year old. It's not easy for me. Sumo couldn't help but complain. According to Sumo's idea, the experience points required to reach level 3 should naturally increase by 300 points. I thought it would be an arithmetic progression. But I didn't expect that this system couldn't do math. It just went straight to a geometric progression. Now I have more and more time to slack off, but fewer and fewer insects. My leveling speed will only get slower and slower. I can barely fight the vicious dog when I was 3 years old. But how can I save the village when I am 8 years old? Those robbers must be at least level 10 or above. After all, if you are not strong, how can you be a robber? Thinking of this, a sense of urgency swept through Sumo's body, according to the current upgrade progress. At the age of 8, I could never fight against those robbers. Is it possible that I can only ask my parents to move out early? But the villagers are very nice to me, and I don't know whether my parents will listen to a little kid like me and be willing to move out. Sumo could only think unwillingly. When I was at a loss. And it was at this moment. Ding! Because you killed so many ants, you were awarded the title Ant Killer. Title, Ant Killer. Attribute, can control ants within a certain range. Ant Killer? Did I kill that many ants? Sumo first grumbled in dissatisfaction. He clearly remembered that he had only trampled to death a few 100 million. But controlling ants has great potential. And when he saw the attributes of the title in front of him, Sumo's eyes lit up again. Good times will come after bad times. This means that he can completely control these ants to find more insects for him. Or he could just let the ants carry the insects they can to him, and he would just sit back and reap the benefits. In this way, he has an army of ants as his eyes and ears, searching for insects for him. Isn't this how the upgrade efficiency improves? This is it. This should be the largest ant nest nearby. Sumo murmured, looking surprised. At this moment, a small ant was crawling on his fingertips, and its 2 antennae were constantly moving, as if sending out some signal. And through the title of Ant Killer, a very faint and hazy consciousness passed through this little ant, guiding Sumo to come here. In front of him was an old banyan tree behind his own compound. There is a huge hole at the bottom of the old banyan tree, and there is a huge ant nest. Children, I need your strength. Sumo is wearing open-crotch pants, with his hands on his hips, looking full of energy. Soon, through the title of Ant Killer, a large group of hazy consciousness was connected. The next moment, a huge army of ants, under the command of a harmless 1-year-old child, began to move. Ding! Your ant army is eating a centipede, experience value +5. Ding! Your ant army is eating a swallow, experience value +10. Ding! Your ant army is eating a python corpse, experience value +50. Sumo was lying comfortably at home, with system prompts constantly coming to his ears. Ever since I had the help of the ant army to level up, my life has been so comfortable. Any ant controlled by Sumo will provide experience points to Sumo, as long as it eats a small animal. Although it's only half of the experience points gained by killing them personally, it's still a lot. At first, he wanted the ant army to catch the insects in front of him, and then kill them with his own hands. But later I felt that this was too troublesome and it would be better to let the ants eat it themselves. It is roughly estimated that there are more than 10,000 ants controlled by Sumo. As long as the ants' activity range does not exceed 1 kilometer, they can be controlled by him. Well, I'll be level 3 soon. I love this leveling speed. Looking at the ever-increasing experience points, Sumo was overjoyed. A week later, Sumo finally turned 2 years old. Ding! Your ant army is eating an earthworm, experience value +5. Ding! You killed a mosquito, experience points +1. Ding! Your ant army has found a lost lamb and is currently nibbling on it. However, the nibbling has failed. 10 ants in your ant army have been damaged in this operation, and 3 of them are unable to get off the lamb. Ding! Your ant army is besieging a wounded mantis. The mantis has been successfully captured by the ant army. Experience value +10. Host Sumo. Age 2. Level 3. Experience value 0/1000. Evaluation: the power of one sheep. Finally, a golden light flashed, and Sumo's level reached level 3. Hiss, you are just a sheep, do you have to pick on animals? When Sumo saw the review column, he felt a toothache. The experience points required to reach the next level also made Sumo feel uneasy. It actually requires 1,000 points. Now within a kilometer radius, there are fewer and fewer insects that can provide experience points for Sumo. After all, almost all existing insects have been plundered by the ant army, almost causing a small-scale ecological extinction. From the very beginning, the maximum experience points provided per day was 100, but now it is only a few dozen points per day. Moreover, during this period, the little ants also laid off employees from time to time, and some lost their way or died in the line of duty. I can't find the little insects anymore. The upgrade speed has slowed down again. It seems I have to find another way. Sumo stroked his chin in thought. Suddenly my eyes lit up. Although this method is a bit cruel, it is the only way to upgrade quickly at this time. Sumo began to gather all the ants around him. A dark mass gathered in Sumo's yard like a black cloud. What did I usually say? God is merciful and kind. You shouldn't fight and kill. Look at you, you have plundered the outside world and caused the extinction of the ecology in this area. Alas, you have killed too many people. Now that things have come to this, I can't save you. Sumo sighed in a baby voice. Ant. You guys can do it yourself, I won't do it myself. Sumo was wearing open-crotch pants and standing with his hands behind his back. He turned his back, seemingly unable to bear to watch this scene. After all, there are so many ants packed together, and it would be very tiring if you step on them slowly. Then, Sumo let the ants devour each other and kill each other. Ding, your ant number 1 killed ant number 2, experience value plus 0.1. Ding, your ant number 6 refused to give in and killed ant number 5. Experience value plus 0.1 inch. Ding, your ant number 1 was attacked by ant number 6, experience value plus 0.1. Ding, your ant number 6 did not follow martial ethics and attacked ant number 321. Experience value plus 0.1 inch. Ding, you've been upgraded. 2 hours later, all the ants in front of him were dead, except for one. Ding, your ant number 6 survived to the end. After a long battle and a lot of devouring, it mutated and evolved into the ironclad Ant King. Ding, the pet system is turned on. Wow, this is possible. And the pet system is activated? Sumo secretly clicked his tongue, and then a hint of pity appeared in his eyes. After all, it seems that after becoming a pet, it can no longer be converted into experience points. A golden light flashed, and I saw that the originally unremarkable little ant in front of me had grown larger at some point, and was now half the size of an ordinary person's fist, with some strange patterns engraved on its body. Ding, please name your cute pet. Name him? Since he is ant number 6 and survived to the end, let's call him Xiaolu. Sumo stroked his chin in thought. Name, Kuroku. Race, Iron-Armored Ant King. Level 3. Skills, Bloodline Suppression, Natural Divine Power, Copper Skin and Iron Bones. Bloodline Suppression, can intimidate surrounding ants and control ants within a certain range. Innate Divine Power, able to exert a force 1,000 times that of one's own body weight. Copper Skin and Iron Bones, greatly improved defense. Sumo was even more stunned when the data of the Iron Ant King appeared in front of him. A small ant that was originally level 0, after devouring 10,000 ants, has now become level 3? And there are 3 skills? You know, I don't even have one right now. Sumo thought a little sourly. What a pity, level 3 monsters can't be converted into experience points. Sumo looked at Xiaolu eagerly, with a look of regret on his face. After all, after becoming a pet, it can no longer be converted into experience points. Xiaolu stood aside in a very cute manner. Seeing his master staring at him with a very strange look, he was at a loss for a moment. Could it be that my master likes this? But I am a male. Xiaolu felt very confused. When the owner wants to do something later, will it agree or not? Name Su Mo. Age 2. Level 5. Experience value 231/2000. Evaluation 1 person's strength. After Xiaolu devoured 10,000 ants, the experience points provided to Su Mo allowed him to reach level 5 directly. It can be said that the realm has skyrocketed. Now, he is only 2 years old, but he already has the strength of an adult. Xiaolu, now that you have entered the system, you have to work hard and strive to upgrade, understand? Su Mo stood there with his small body, hands behind his back, drawing cakes in a childish voice facing the little silver ant. Master is not like those other vampire capitalists who don't know how to respect people. We use the 007 system that respects human rights the most. Working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is that a problem? Seeing that Xiaolu was listening very seriously and had no objection, Su Mo nodded with satisfaction and waved. It seems that you have agreed. Go ahead and upgrade. Xiaolu nodded as if he understood, and with his body, which was only half the size of a fist, he quickly crawled towards the mountains in the distance. Amor, look what I brought back. From now on, there's a new member in the family. Sumo's father in this life said happily. Then a few dog barks were heard, and sure enough, a big black dog came back with a ferocious look. Su Mo pulled the corner of his mouth. What a great new member! I'm so happy. Great, a new partner! Su Mo said in a baby voice, pretending to be happy, and at the same time, his mind moved, and the information of a man and a dog appeared in front of him. Name Suyu. Level 7-9. Skills, hunting specialization, basic fists and kicks. Because Su's father hunted all year round, he had an additional skill specialized in hunting. Moreover, in the column belonging to Su's father's level, in addition to the usual level, there is an additional registration number, showing level 9. Just when Su Mo was puzzled, he glanced at Su's father, and a hint of understanding appeared in his eyes. At this time, Su's father had just returned from hunting, carrying a bow and arrow on his back. I'm afraid the level 9 in the brackets is what increases the power of this bow. Come to think of it, there is still a huge gap in strength between a mortal with flesh and blood and a big man with a machete. However, it is estimated that this gap formed by equipment will become smaller as the level increases. Name Big Black Dog. Level 6. Skills Bite, Wild and Untamable. This big black dog is actually level 6. It's 1 level higher than the little white in the village. Is it so ferocious? Su Mo turned his gaze towards the big black dog again, his eyes becoming unfriendly. After all, this guy will bite off his legs next year. He has ruined his cultivation foundation. Although it hasn't happened yet, the thought of this kind of anger is unbearable, so it naturally has to be transformed into experience points. It seems that I can't kill it for a while, so I'll keep it for now. I'll have to eat it sooner or later. Su Mo muttered in his heart. The big black dog seemed to sense the hostility of its little master. It bared its teeth and looked at Su Mo with vigilance. You beast, if I hadn't seen that you were good at hunting, I would have killed you long ago. Why are you still not behaving yourself? Seeing the big black dog baring its teeth, Su picked up Su Mo and kicked the big black dog to the ground. The big black dog whimpered and just curled up obediently on the side. When Su Mo heard this, his eyes lit up. Yeah, hunting? I can hunt? Then Su Mo started to persuade Su Mo. What do you want to learn to hunt? Father Su's voice suddenly rose 8 octaves. Hearing the suggestion of his 2-year-old boy, his body trembled, and he was obviously frightened. No, you're too young. Father Su shook his head like a rattle. No means no, hunting is dangerous. Your mother will kill me. I know you are the most obedient, but that won't work. Where would I hide my own private money? You're talking nonsense. In the end, Su's father did not agree to take Suyu hunting. But he agreed to another request of Su Mo. That is to leave the prey with a breath and bring it back alive. Although I don't understand the child's strange request, I think this is a smart and sensible child. This is the first time he has asked me for something. It would be difficult to refuse anymore. In the next few days, Su would leave a breath every time he brought back prey. Then Su Mo secretly finished off the enemy. Sometimes there are 2 rabbits, sometimes there is a deer, and sometimes there is even a gray wolf. Name: Gray Wolf. Level 6. Skills: Bite, Claws. Seeing that even the gray wolf was there, Su Mo couldn't help but shudder. It seemed that this mountain was not as safe as he had imagined. I just don't know how Father Su caught this lone wolf. However, according to the simulator's prompts, Father Su should not have encountered any danger while hunting himself, at least before the 8-year-old bandits plundered the village. Since Su Mo's father brought back the prey, and Xiao Lu's hard work on the mountain day and night, his experience value has risen rapidly again. Ding, you killed a seriously injured rabbit, experience points plus 10. Ding, you killed a seriously injured fawn, experience points plus 20. Ding, you killed the seriously injured gray wolf, experience points plus 50. Ding, your cute pet Xiao is eating a centipede, experience value plus 10. This continued until he was 3 years old, when Su Mo was promoted 2 levels again. Name: Su Mo. Age 3. Level 7. Experience value: 131/5000. Evaluation: Qi and Blood Surge. And on this day, another opportunity to become stronger was presented to Su Mo. Amor, do you want to learn martial arts? A new stranger came to Qingshan town. He was said to be a martial artist and had opened a martial arts school here. At this time, he was recruiting disciples. Su's father thought about sending Su Mo into practice. According to my original thought, Su Mo is too young, but the child is really smart. Moreover, through several intentional or unintentional contacts, he felt that his boy's hands were incredibly strong, and it was very likely that he was born with supernatural powers. So you should try it even more. When Su Mo arrived at the newly built martial arts hall, there were several families bringing their children to learn from the master. However, most of the children who came to learn from the master were 7 or 8 years old, and some were 11 or 12 years old. It is rare for someone as young as Su Mo to become a disciple at the age of only 3. To the astonished gazes of the crowd, Su Mo passed through many obstacles and looked straight at the middle-aged man in martial arts uniform sitting on the armchair. This was the first time he saw a martial artist in this world. Name: Long Xiaohu. Age 47. Level: 21/39, with hidden injury, early stage of dark energy, / late stage of transformation energy. Skills: Dragon Tiger Fist, Changhong Sword Technique, Dragon Walking Tiger Step. The visitor looked energetic and was sitting in a seat sipping tea. He has a powerful aura that ordinary people don't have. Is this a true warrior? He is indeed powerful. And he seems to be suffering from hidden injuries. Seeing Long Xiaohu's level, Su Mo had some enlightenment. The usual level represents normal combat power, while the registered level represents the extreme combat power that can be unleashed. What kind of injury could cause one to drop down a level? Su Mo was secretly shocked. At the same time, I also figured out the levels of realms in this world: Ming Jin, Jin, and Hua Jin, but I don't know what is above these. The reason why Ming Jin is so clear is because the village chief of this village is also at this level, an 11th level monster. And this dragon tiger is the first high-level monster Su Mo has encountered since the reincarnation world, and it even has several skills. As if he had sensed some kind of attention, Long Xiaohu turned his gaze and looked at Su Mo, his eyes brightening. He strode forward and looked at Su Mo with interest. Then he touched the bones at several joints of Su Mo and said happily, "Yes, it's a good seedling. My disciples, from today on, those who want to practice swordplay must swing their swords 1,000 times every day. If you want to learn boxing, hit the wooden stake 1,000 times every day. Before practicing advanced sword techniques, the foundation of sword techniques must be extremely solid. Practice in the coldest days of winter and the hottest days of summer. You must practice wielding the sword in your hand, like bending and stretching your arm, and even make the sword and you one and the same, with your mind communicating with each other. Similarly, if you want to practice boxing, you have to use every inch of your strength to the fullest. Advanced martial artists can even punch with 12 points of strength. How to master the technique of exerting force is a must-have course for every boxer. You have 1 month to see if you are suitable for martial arts training. If you can't do it, go back to farming. In Qingshan Martial Arts Hall, the owner Long Xiaohu stood upright, holding a 3-foot cold sword. He looked at this group of new disciples and said sternly, "Ah? 1,000 swings? No way! If you do it 1,000 times a day, won't you be exhausted to death? Won't your hands be crippled?" Complaints began to be heard one after another. Most of the kids, when they heard that they had to swing the flag 1,000 times boringly, immediately had a sad face. Children are naturally lively and active, and cannot stand boring things. At this time, the novelty of practicing martial arts has mostly worn off, and they are beginning to want to give up. "Yes." Amidst the complaints, a voice that sounded childish but full of energy rang out. It was a small figure. Without complaining, he silently picked up a wooden sword that was longer than himself and started swinging it. "I think the one with the most talent in martial arts is only Su Mo." Long Xiaohu looked at Su Mo's small figure, who was the first to run to practice sword, with a look of joy on his face. Then he took the opportunity to speak up and attack and ridicule other disciples. "If you can't hold on, go back to farm work as soon as possible. Your father is a farmer, you are also a farmer, and your ancestors have all been farmers. Don't learn any martial arts, farming is more suitable for you," Long Xiaohu said in a cold voice. Every word was heart-wrenching. All the disciples clenched their fists unwillingly, and then the youngest Su Mo went to practice. "I couldn't help but grit my teeth and go practice." For a moment, people were swinging swords, practicing boxing. The entire martial arts hall suddenly became lively. "Ah, it's just the nature of a child after all." Looking at this scene, Long Xiaohu shook his head, feeling extremely disappointed. From his perspective, he knew that most of the children here were only temporarily motivated by the words of others. Many children just go through the motions, throwing weak punches that don't even have 30% of their strength. And on the path of cultivation, ultimately you can only rely on yourself. With such a mentality, there is no chance for one to pursue martial arts. Then he looked at Su Mo. He was the only one who was truly concentrating on swinging his sword. He used at least 80% of his strength in every swing. Looking at Su Mo, who was waving the sword in a very professional manner, Long Xiaohu couldn't help but feel relieved. What attracted Long Xiaohu at the beginning was Su Mo's determined eyes, as sharp as a knife. That was the look that a warrior should have. It is hard to imagine that such a look would appear in a child. 2 hours later. "Is this little brat a pervert? Doesn't he feel tired at all? He's still waving his hands? Oh my God, I thought he was just pretending at first, but I didn't expect he could actually hold on for so long." At this time, many disciples of the martial arts school stopped because they were tired, feeling soreness and swelling in their arms. Some people rub their wrists, some people shake their hands. This was their third break. Basically, they would stop to rest every half an hour. There was only a small figure who was still swinging the sword non-stop. Even though he was sweating profusely, the little kid did not stop to rest for a moment. Instead, he was full of energy. "Oh my God, what kind of perversion is this? Is this the one in a million martial arts genius?" Many older children opened their eyes wide in disbelief. What kind of willpower does one have to persist for so long? And the body seems to have no sense of fatigue? "Ding, you swung your sword 100 times and gained some martial arts insights, experience plus 10. Ding, you swung the sword 100 times, basic sword proficiency plus 1. Basic sword skills LV0, 7 out of 100, not yet qualified." Su Mo couldn't have held on for that long, but he couldn't resist the system. He gave him too much. Suemo also didn't expect that practicing sword swinging could not only increase basic sword skills proficiency, but also gain experience points. And every time he gained 10 experience points, a warm current would flow, nourishing and repairing his body, sweeping away his fatigue. Therefore, when he practices sword, it will not cause any harm to his body at all, he will only feel that he is getting stronger all the time. This kind of pleasure of leveling up is simply too great. After 2 hours of continuous sword swinging, an average of 1 swing every 10 seconds, now he has swung 720 times continuously, and is about to achieve the goal set by Long Xiaohu. But swinging the sword 1,000 times a day is not enough. His goal is to swing it 10,000 times. After all, this kind of upgrade feels so good. It gives experience points and proficiency. What could he say no to? Of course, he definitely couldn't swing the sword 10,000 times on the first day, as his frequency was still too slow. If the frequency is increased, the sword swinging posture and force generating techniques will not be up to standard, and will eventually be judged by the system as invalid sword swinging, with no experience points or proficiency. In the end, while ensuring that the sword was swung effectively, he swung the sword 5,000 times on the first day. The next day, he still swung the sword 5,000 times, but his basic sword skills were finally upgraded and he had now successfully gotten started. Name Suemo. Age 3. Level 7. Experience value 1314/5000. Skill Basic Sword Skill LV1 42/200 Beginner. Evaluation 1 Person's Strength. After learning the basic sword skills, the frequency of his sword swinging became faster again. This time he could swing the sword once every 8 seconds, and all of them were effective. So on the third day, he swung his sword 6,200 times using the basic sword skills he had learned. On the fourth day, he swung the sword 7,300 times. Just a few days later, Sumo's basic swordsmanship has been upgraded to a minor success level, and he can now swing his sword once every 5 seconds. At this time, he could swing the sword 10,000 times a day. However, even if it exceeds 10,000 times, there is no additional experience value or proficiency. It seems to have reached the maximum value. And there is a problem. As the level of basic swordsmanship increases, the martial arts insights gained begin to decrease. From the very beginning, if you swing the sword 10,000 times with the basic swordsmanship of level 2, you can get 1,000 experience points. Later, after using the level 3 basic swordsmanship and swinging the sword 10,000 times, the experience points gained were only 500. But even so, Sumo still worked day and night, maintaining the pace of swinging the sword 10,000 times a day. With continuous upgrades, the proficiency in basic swordsmanship also increases. Time flies. Sumo's sword swings became faster and faster, and his foundation became more solid. Until 1 sword per second, 2 swords per second. At this extremely fast frequency, it would not take a day to swing the sword 10,000 times, but only 2 or 3 hours. The extra time is naturally used to fight with other disciples. Ding, you made the naughty kid Wan Xiaobao cry, experience points plus 50. Ding, you made the naughty kid Zhao Shaolu cry, experience points plus 50. Ding, you made the little girl Tsihua cry, experience points plus 50. Ding, you've been upgraded. Ding, because you beat too many children under the age of 12 and made them cry, you were given the title of Kindergarten Bully. Title, Kindergarten Bully. Attributes. Causes a certain degree of intimidation to the surrounding children, causing their attributes to be halved and causing them to cry uncontrollably. Run! Demon King Su is coming. Don't hit me. You've already hit me twice this week. Woohoo, isn't it time to change people? Whoa! Monster! Mommy, I want to go home. At this time, the children in the village wailed, and they felt miserable. It was not enough that they were bullied in the martial arts school, but they never expected that they would be bullied outside the martial arts school as well. As long as Suemo is around, all the children have to avoid him. They are already scared out of their childhood. That won't work. My master said that the way to compete in martial arts is to spar with each other frequently and gain experience in battle. Little Suemo said in a baby voice, holding a wooden sword and running around the village chasing kids who were much older than him. After all, he remembered very clearly that in the simulator, he was bullied by children from the same village because his leg was broken by a dog. I even wanted to commit suicide several times due to depression. As the saying goes, it is never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. At this time, we naturally cannot let go of these experience points. 2 years later. Ding, you defeated the martial arts disciple Zhou Dongshan, experience points plus 200. Ding, you defeated martial arts disciple Zhao Renxin, experience points plus 200. Ding, you used basic sword skills skillfully during the battle, proficiency plus 10. Ding, you have skillfully used basic combat techniques in battle, proficiency plus 10. Ding, your cute pet Xiao defeated a big gray wolf independently, experience points plus 50. Ding, you've been upgraded. Ding, your cute pet Xiao has been upgraded. Name Suemo. Age 5. Level 15, 17, Middle Mingjin period. Experience value 105/8000. Skills Basic Sword Skills LV5, 31/10,000, Great Mastery. Basic Fighting Skills LV3, 47/2000. Evaluation Although you are a rookie, you are already a qualified warrior. You can exert your full strength. Ordinary people are no match for you. Pet Xiaolu 6. Oh! Xiaolu has also leveled up. But useless Xiaolu is only level 6. He doesn't look like his master at all. Suemo curled his lips with disdain, and then said with a look of regret, This guy Xiao must have been lazy. 2 years have passed, and he has already officially stepped into the threshold of a warrior and reached the middle stage of Mingjin. A 5-year-old warrior should be unheard of, right? In his previous life, he was at the 4th or even 5th stage of Hidden Yuan. In his previous life, with the help of Luoxi's resources, he did not reach the 3rd level of Hidden Yuan until he was 17 years old. Now, at the age of 5, he has easily surpassed himself who has been practicing in the main world for 17 years. I just don't know what rank Luoxi was at when he was 5 years old. He probably wasn't as high as me. Suemo murmured to himself, feeling slightly proud. This time, has he surpassed Luoxi? He is finally no longer a burden. When he thought of Luoxi, a hint of longing flashed across Sumo's eyes, but he quickly suppressed it. Although I'm only level 15, I can definitely compete with a level 17 with my basic swordsmanship. I should be considered a genius who can fight against opponents of higher levels. Suemo couldn't help but think complacently. This is the advantage brought by the mastery of basic swordsmanship, which allows him to fight against opponents of higher levels. In the past 2 years, he had basically been sparring with others and practicing sword skills day and night. Then he would slaughter the prey brought back by Lao Su every day, bully the children from the same village, and let Xiao work for him to help him level up. 2 years later, he finally reached level 15. The majority of experience points are gained from sparring with others and practicing sword skills. Defeating others in a sparring match gives you the most experience points, hundreds of them, and it can also increase your skill proficiency. The key to success in sword practice is steady and continuous progress. 2 years have passed, and there are only 10 disciples left out of the many disciples in the martial arts school. Most of them could not endure the cruel training and left. Some disciples were forced to leave during friendly exchanges with Suemo. After several rounds of competition, Suemo mastered the basic fighting skills and reached level 3. The remaining disciples in the martial arts school are 17 years old at the oldest and 14 years old at the youngest. But none of them is a match for Suemo. After all, swinging the sword 10,000 times a day, day and night, would bring a terrifying amount of experience. How could it not be powerful? This was the advantage brought by mastering the basic swordsmanship. However, after mastering the basic sword skills, the experience points he gained from practicing sword every day were only 100, and the increase in proficiency was minimal. He now urgently needs other ways to level up. You can't do it. You need to practice harder. Looking at the people who fell down, Suemo said in a baby voice. Yes, big brother. All the disciples lowered their heads in shame and dared not say anything more. They are obviously older, but they insist on calling the youngest child big brother. This feeling was quite strange, but they didn't dare to say anything. Because according to the rules of the martial arts school, the strongest one is the eldest brother, not to mention that they are also scared of Suemo. Hey, I don't know when I'll have to wait for you to upgrade next time. Suemo muttered softly. Of course, you can't spawn monsters repeatedly. If you win a battle once, the experience you gain the next time you win will be halved, and so on. So he was too lazy to bully the children in the village. If he beat them up now, he would get less than 10 experience points. It would be better for him to practice swordplay on his own for a while. But the regular disciples of a martial arts school are different, firstly because their level is high enough and the basic experience they provide is high. Secondly, they will level up, and once they level up, they can refresh their experience points again, making it convenient to continue to make money. Therefore, urging them to practice and learning from them is Sumo's greatest pleasure. Amor, come with me. A loud voice sounded. It was Long Xiaohu. Yes. Suemo said respectfully, and then followed Long Xiaohu to the backyard. Amor, you are the most talented disciple I have ever seen. Ordinary people need to wield the sword for at least 10 years before they can master the basic sword skills. However, at such a young age, in just 2 years, you have already mastered such a solid foundation. Your talent is truly rare. Now I can safely pass on the Changhong sword technique to you. Long Xiaohu stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the youngest disciple with a look of satisfaction and admiration. From his words, he already regarded Suemo as his successor. As he spoke, he started moving, holding a 3-foot cold sword. Squeak! The sword in Long Xiaohu's hand seemed to have become one with him, like an arm flexing and stretching. The sword emitted a sharp light in the air, and as fast as the wind, it danced and circled in the air. Each move was extremely fierce, piercing out gusts of wind like a howling gale. Soon, Long Xiaohu performed a complete set of smooth sword techniques. Amor, did you see clearly? Long Xiaohu stood with the sword in his hand, his face calm and his breath calm, and asked. Ding, you have included the Changhong sword technique. Looking at the system prompts, every move of the Changhong sword technique was engraved in his mind. Suemo nodded his head. I see clearly. Pfft, what did you say? Do you really think you are a genius? You learned such a complicated sword technique after I used it once? Is this a joke? Long Xiaohu almost vomited blood. But then he felt that his disciple might have become proud without him realizing it. Then he said unhappily. Then try it out and see. Soon, Suemo held the wooden sword and began to use the Changhong sword technique that had just been imprinted in his mind without any error. Ding, you gained some insights into martial arts while practicing Changhong sword technique, experience points plus 10. Ding, you used the Changhong sword technique, proficiency plus 1. Ding, because you have mastered the basic swordsmanship, your Changhong swordsmanship proficiency is increased by an additional plus 10. Hey, after mastering the basic sword technique, there is this benefit. Then it won't take long before I can master the Changhong sword technique? Hearing the reminder in his ear, Sumo's heart moved. He actually learned it, but he only read it once. Long Xiaohu was stunned. Even now, I still feel like I am in a dream. It took him 3 full months to learn this sword technique, and yet, he was still praised as a genius by his master. But Suemo. I just took a look at it. He swallowed and finally understood how his disciples looked at Suemo, as if he were a monster. When Suemo practiced the Changhong sword technique again, Long Xiaohu almost vomited blood and felt a little doubtful about his life. He only practiced once, how come he improved so much the second time? Long Xiaohu seemed to have discovered a monster. Doesn't this mean that I can get started with Changhong sword technique today? Is my foundation in sword technique so solid? I'm afraid it won't be long before I can't teach you anything. Looking at Su Mo standing respectfully aside, Long Xiaohu shook his head and smiled bitterly. From now on, you don't need to spar with those junior brothers. With your strength, sparring with people whose strength is too different from yours will not help you improve. From now on, I will be your sparring partner, Long Xiaohu said again. From now on, he decided to teach Su Mo to practice personally every day. With Su Mo's talent, he must not let it be buried in his hands. Now Su Mo's daily experience points become: practice Changhong sword technique for 2 hours, experience value plus 1000, proficiency plus 100, basic sword proficiency plus 10. It's not that I don't want to practice longer, but the experience points and proficiency gained after 2 hours of practice have reached the maximum. The basic sword technique is to swing the sword 10,000 times in half an hour, 5 swords per second, which provides 100 experience points and a basic sword proficiency of 10. In addition, there is Long Xiaohu as a sparring partner, who is the real big shot. Ding, you have mastered some martial arts insights under the guidance of Long Xiaohu, experience points plus 100. Ding, under the guidance of Long Xiaohu, you have mastered the essence of Changhong sword technique. Proficiency plus 100 inch. The early stage of upgrading was the fastest. In just 1 month, he upgraded 2 levels. His cultivation was advancing by leaps and bounds. The Changhong sword technique has also been practiced to a small level. Name Su Mo. Age 5. Level 17-19, late Mingjin period. Experience 2341/10,000. Skills: basic sword skill LV6, 31/10,000, great success. Changhong sword skill LV3, for 31/1000, minor success. Basic fighting skill LV4, 47/1200, minor success. Evaluation outstanding. After the Changhong sword technique has been mastered, the experience points and proficiency provided by daily practice have also decreased. A full day provides 800 experience points and 80 proficiency points. But fortunately, he still has a master. Ding, you tied with Long Xiaohu, who has 30% of his combat power, experience points plus 1000. Ding, you tied with Long Xiaohu, who has 50% combat power, experience value plus 2000. A few months later, Su Mo's cultivation progressed rapidly and reached level 19. 1 year later, Su Mo's cultivation progressed rapidly and he reached level 20. This year, the Changhong sword technique reached perfection and provided significantly less experience points, so Su Mo's upgrade speed finally slowed down. But fortunately, he still has a master. Seeing that Su Mo had mastered the Changhong sword technique, Long Xiaohu taught him the Dragon Tiger Fist and the Dragon Walking Tiger Steps, a light skill, in addition to serving as his sparring partner. He practiced swordplay, boxing, and martial arts every day, day and night. During the practice, experience points and skill proficiency are increasing rapidly. However, the upgrade speed becomes slower as time goes on, especially when there are no monsters spawning. For Su Mo, the progress is simply slow. Time flies. 3 years later. Master, please give me the sword, Su Mo said respectfully. At this time, he has grown from a 5-year-old kid. He has grown into an 8-year-old older kid. Disciple, why don't we not practice today? My old waist is not in good condition. Today, the master is no longer your opponent. It is meaningless to keep bullying the master. You should go out and explore the wider world, Long Xiaohu said with a headache on his face. He really didn't expect that his disciple's talent could be so abnormal. Not only is he talented, but he's also very hardworking. Basically, year after year, day after day, I practice hard. He was either practicing swordplay or on his way to practice swordplay, or on his way to sparring with others, which was enough to make him, the master, die. At the beginning of the battle, Long Xiaohu only needed to use 30% of his fighting power to easily control this kid. But after 1 year, 50% of the combat power is needed, and after 2 years 80% of the combat power is needed. But now, all he had learned had been taken away by this disciple, and there was really nothing he could teach him. and since 3 months ago, he has been no match for his own apprentice. It's embarrassing to say it out loud. I'm over 40 years old and have practiced martial arts all my life, but I lost to an 8-year-old boy. Of course, this is me after I was injured. He would not cause any injury to himself by sparring with his apprentice. But his disciple is indeed a freak. It seems that after every sparring match, he becomes stronger. He is simply a genius born for battle. Name Su Mo. Age 8. Level 22, 25, Early Dark Power. Experience 4321/50,000. Skills: Changhong Sword Skill LV8, 1999/20,000, Master the Whole Skill, Dragon Tiger Fist LV8, 1999/20,000, Master the Whole Skill, Dragon Walk Tiger Step LV8, 19999/20,000, Master the Whole Skill. Basic Sword Skills LV8, for 31/20,000, Great Success, Basic Punches and Kicks LV7, 342/18,000, Great Success, Basic Body Skills LV7, 31/18,000, Great Success. Evaluation: the disciple is better than the master. At this time, Su Mo not only successfully reached level 22, but also his advanced skills all reach level 8, reaching a state of mastery. However, it seems that I have reached a bottleneck. No matter how much I practice, I cannot improve my proficiency. According to Long Xiaohu, Su Mo lacks actual life and death experience. From now on, you will use this sword. This sword is called Qihong, and it is a rare sword. Long Xiaohu took out a long sword glowing blue and handed it to Su Mo. Yes, master. I have also decided that it is time to go out and explore the world. Su Mo took the sword and said, After all, it's time to leave the novice village and switch to another map to continue killing monsters. Previously, I had thought to wait until the bandit problem was solved before leaving. But now, he changed his mind. If the bandits came to encircle the village, he would lose the initiative. It is very likely that you will be outnumbered alone, and if you threaten fellow villagers or children, it will be very troublesome. Only by actively finding their lair can we defeat them one by one. Besides, it's time to look for the person with the fate of the Empress. But he did not forget that it was his ultimate mission in the reincarnation world. If he wanted to return, he had to conquer the Empress. Well, I can't teach you anything anymore. You have already started to learn the dark energy, and are considered a master in the martial arts world. It's time to go out and explore the world. Oh, by the way, I have a token here. Long Xiaohu said, as if he remembered something, and took out a token. You can take this token and go to the Sword Sector Qingyun Mountain. An old friend will come to greet you, and then you can worship her as your master. The Sword Sect is one of the most powerful sections. Although it has declined a little now, it still has a profound foundation. Remember not to lose your manners. You will grow better there. Disciple, please remember this. Su Mo nodded respectfully and took the token. When he heard the word Sword Sect, his heart was moved. This Sword Sect seems to have a close relationship with the master. Then the woman who passed by and saved him in the simulator might not have been an accident. Maybe he came here just for the master. Thinking of this, Su Mo shook his head again, looking shy. Master, I have something to ask of you. The next day, he rode a horse, carried a bag on his back, and held a Qihong sword in his hand. After saying goodbye to the elders and fellow villagers, I left the novice village. When I was leaving, the children in the village played gongs and drums loudly. It was very lively. They even started setting off firecrackers. Hey, it seems that the children in the village have developed feelings for me. They actually sent me off like this. It's really polite. That's right. After all, I used to get along well with these kids. Looking at this touching scene, Su Mo couldn't help but sigh. Did I forget something? Su Mo scratched his head and thought for a while but couldn't figure it out. Then he jumped on his horse and rode away. At this time, on Qingyun Mountain, an ant with a special luster and strange patterns was walking towards the distance. It follows the orders of an unreliable master, and continues to upgrade in the mountains. However, I unknowingly walked towards the mountains that were farther and deeper. On the other side, after Suemo was far away from the village, he took out a map he had prepared in advance and began to look at it. This map was, of course, the one he asked his master to draw for him yesterday. There were a total of 7 bandit dens near the village, all of which were marked out. But after looking at it for a long time, Suemo frowned a little. He found that he was used to the navigation in the main world, and he really couldn't read the map of this reincarnation world. It's really too rough, too abstract. Ding! Since the host has left the novice village, the following functions are now open. Map system loaded. Backpack function loaded. As if sensing his difficulty, the system's prompt sounded at the right time. Then, a large light blue map appeared in front of his eyes, full of modern technology, like a 3D projection. The red dot on the map represents his current location, and the white zebra crossing. It connected him and guided him to the nearest bandit's den nearby. It's like a pillow is sent to you when you are sleepy. Is the system ready? Sumo's eyes flashed with joy and he couldn't help asking. System. But as expected, there was no response from the system. Suemo didn't care and put the luggage into the backpack without saying anything. And there is also his own Qinghong sword. Then he started galloping on his horse, following the white line marked by the system, and rushed towards the nearest bandit den, Langhe Mountain. 3 days later. It was a dark and windy night. Suemo put the horse into the pet space, then used Qinghong to sneak up the mountain. When I reached the mountainside, I saw a level 12 bandit standing guard there. Without saying a word, he flashed behind the bandit, knocked him out with a knife and captured him. Tell me, how many bandits are there in your mountain? Who is the strongest one? How strong is he? Carry the bandits down the mountain to a safe place. Suemo woke the bandit up, holding the Qinghong sword, put it on the bandit's neck, and said in a cold voice, I'll tell you. Young man, don't kill me. We have more than 300 people in Langhe village, with 3 main leaders. The strongest one is the eldest leader, who has the strength of the early stage of dark energy. The bandit said in a trembling voice. He is just a peripheral member and has no loyalty at all. Okay, one more question, what is 1 plus 1? The bandit was stunned for a moment and said, 2. Squeak. Suemo cut off the bandit's head with a single blow of his sword. I didn't want to kill you, but you know too much. Suemo sighed, feeling that he was kind-hearted. Ding, you killed a bandit. Experience plus 1000, reputation plus 1 inch. Ding, the reputation system is activated. When the reputation value reaches a certain level, it can arouse the favorability, respect, of people in the martial arts world, and it can arouse the fear, hostility, of people in the demon sect. The system's prompt sounded in his ears, and Sumo's eyes lit up slightly. Reputation system? In the future, can we make a living by just relying on our looks? We don't have to pay for eating, drinking, whoring, or gambling? Suemo stroked his chin, seeming to understand the new gameplay of the reputation system. A level 12 bandit has some martial arts skills, but not much. Does that mean he has 1000 experience points? Suemo sighed again. It seems that killing people can gain more experience points than defeating enemies. Well, the strength of the initial stage of dark energy is the same level as Master, which should be around level 20. I don't know the strength of the other 2 bosses yet. It might be dangerous if we are surrounded and attacked rashly. But don't worry. I can kill the monsters first and level up. Suemo was thinking about countermeasures in his mind. Soon, Suemo took action. In the pitch-black night, he was like an agile cheetah, hunting prey one after another. Ding, you killed a bandit, experience plus 1200, reputation plus 1. Ding, you killed a bandit, experience plus 1500, reputation plus 1. Ding, you killed a bandit, experience plus 1200, reputation plus 1. Ding, you've been upgraded. Ding, you killed a bandit. Experience plus 2000, reputation plus 1. Ding, you killed a bandit. Experience plus 2000, reputation plus 1. Ding, you've been upgraded. The killing continued, and soon, the bandits on the periphery had been robbed clean. Suemo has even been promoted twice and reached level 24. Name Suemo. Age 8. Level 24, 29, mid-stage dark power. Experience 7421/80,000. Skills: Changhong Sword Skill LV8, 1999/20,000, Master the Whole Skill, Dragon Tiger Fist LV8, 1999/20,000, Master the Whole Skill, Dragon Walk Tiger Step LV8, 1999/20,000, Master the Whole Skill. Basic Sword Skills LV8, for 32/20,000, Great Success, Basic Punches and Kicks LV7, 345/18,000, Great Success, Basic Body Skills LV7, 234/18,000, Great Success. Evaluation: the disciple is better than the master. It's been a while since I've leveled up so fast. As expected, grinding is the way to go. I am not destined to practice hardship. I can only fight, but my skills will level up quickly if I practice hardship. Suemo couldn't help but sigh. Just this bandit den is basically as much as his 1 year of hard training. Who are you? Which sect are you from? Why are you slaughtering my children from Langia Mountain for no reason? The continuous massacres had indeed attracted the attention of the leader of Langia Mountain. The three bosses, led by a group of elite subordinates, surrounded Suemo. The one-eyed leader looked at Suemo in doubt and said, "I didn't let my guard down just because Suemo was a child. Such a young child has already cultivated the dark energy? This is simply unheard of. Which great master has trained this peerless monster?" The boss was panicking at this time. To be so talented at such a young age, I can only say that his background is quite unfathomable. Is there a senior expert secretly following behind him, and when the other party is on the verge of death, a Grand Master will suddenly jump out and slap him to death? Wouldn't that be an unjust death? These famous and upright people all like to do this. At this time, the boss became suspicious and looked around, repeatedly checking whether there was any possible hiding place. No sect, no school, just do justice for the heavens. Suemo looked at the bandits and said in a baby voice. But he was not panicked at all, because he had already seen through the levels of these bandits. Name Dutianba Big Boss. Level 27, 28 Late Dark Power. Skills: Robe Swordsmanship, Dragonfly Skimming the Water, Fighting to the Death. Name Kuang Xiao, Second in Command. Level 24, Middle Stage of Dark Power. Skills: Robe Swordsmanship, Dragonfly Skimming the Water. Name Li Sanxing, the Third in Command. Level 21, Early Dark Power Stage. Skills: Robe Swordsmanship, Dragonfly Skimming the Water. There's no point in panicking. It seems that the sentry is trying to scare me. The three bosses are all at the dark energy stage, but they told me that only the eldest boss is at the early stage of dark energy. Suemo was speechless. It seems that the world is dangerous. The sentry obviously knew that he would not survive, so he came to trick me before he died. Is fighting to the death considered a skill? It seems that the boss has a backup plan. Except for the big boss, who seems to be able to fight above his level and exert the combat power of level 28 at level 27, it is probably related to this desperate skill. The rest of the second and third in command are just of average level. But Suemo doesn't care. Although the three of them have dark force cultivation, none of their ultimate combat power is as high as mine. This means that his swordsmanship is most likely not as good as mine, and his burst power is not as good as mine. However, it is hard to say what the ultimate combat power is. Some people perform beyond their normal capabilities before they die, unleashing their ultimate combat power, while others may be limited by their temperament and state, and may not even be able to exert 80% of their usual strength. This involves a person's fighting talent. As for Suemo, his advanced skills have encountered bottlenecks, and what he lacks most is this kind of life-and-death battle. He must seek a glimmer of hope in the battle. At this time, Sumo, who was surrounded by everyone, had no other way to retreat. He only has to fight. The only way to survive is to unleash your ultimate combat power. You are such an ignorant kid, have your elders ever told you? The boss was talking, trying to attract Sumo's attention. He moved his hands secretly and signaled with his eyes casually, waiting for the elite bandit on the other side to secretly move behind Sumo. Suddenly he shouted, "What do you mean by the dangerous world? Get started." The moment a loud shout comes out, it usually shocks people's hearts and souls. Attack at this time, often take advantage of the enemy's unpreparedness to attack. The boss saw that Sumo was young and must lack practical experience, so he wanted to trick him. Squeak. But Sumo didn't even turn his head, and swung the sword in his hand beautifully. With one barb, he stabbed into the body of the bandit who was holding up the sword and was about to swing it. Oh, and then? Sumo tilted his head and asked innocently. Sizzle. I'm just a child, and you're playing dirty tricks on me? Sumo. The Qinghong sword in his hand was drawn out, and blood dripped down. The corpse behind him fell down, and before he died, he stared with wide eyes at the baby who seemed to be still breastfeeding, full of disbelief. Sharp senses? Or rich combat experience? At such a young age. I don't believe that he has much combat experience. The boss' pupils also shrank, and he was surprised by Sumo's reaction. But soon, he took the lead. The long sword in his hand had already stabbed towards Sumo cleanly and neatly. Squeak. Sumo reacted instinctively, swung his sword, and easily blocked the boss's sword. The long sword in his hand was flying and circling in the air, like an arm flexing and stretching, as if it had completely merged with him. He had already mastered the Qinghong sword technique, and used it casually to parry the attacks from all directions. Squeak. Schwa. In an instant, the two had exchanged several moves, and the two swords collided with each other, emitting a sharp cold light. The boss's sword is fierce and unconventional, focusing on the lower three routes. At first glance, it is a set of evil and sinister sword techniques. Sumo's Qinghong sword technique, on the other hand, is majestic and powerful, with wide opening and closing movements, and is the most authentic sword technique of the famous family. However, the boss is level 27 after all, and his regular combat power is 3 levels higher than Sumo. Once the two of them came into contact, they really started fighting. Sumo was suppressed and overwhelmed, and soon fell into a disadvantage. Well, Big Brother should be able to take down this kid soon. Seeing this scene, the two heads sighed and felt relieved. A quarter of an hour passed, and the two were still fighting. Sumo was at a disadvantage and was about to be defeated. 2/4 of an hour passed, and the two were still fighting. Sumo was at a disadvantage and was about to be defeated. After a long time, everyone was almost asleep while waiting, but the two were still fighting desperately. Sumo was at a disadvantage and was about to be defeated. Second brother, how about we go up and help? The third in command said hesitantly. What a fool! If I can't even take down a little brat, where will I put my face if word gets out? We'll wait. It's only a matter of time before I take him down. The second in command said. Sooner or later, it's impossible. Looking at the two people who were fighting to a standstill, the third in command was too tired to complain. You two. The boss roared and was about to call these two guys to help. I am fighting for my life here. Are these two just standing here watching the show? What are they doing? Do you want to see me beaten to death so that you can inherit my village? But Sumo's sword stabbed straight at him, creating a gust of wind, leaving him no time to speak. The second in command. Don't worry, Big Brother, we won't do anything. This kid must be left to you, Big Brother. The third master. Big Brother is so awesome. You two beasts. I knew you two were up to something bad. The boss almost vomited blood, but he could only continue to fight with Sumo in frustration. When masters fight, Every move is deadly. Be careful not to be distracted, or you might be killed by a sword. Faced with Su Mo's increasingly fierce offensive, he had no chance to speak. And I don't know if it's an illusion, but as time goes by, this kid seems to be getting braver and braver. Gradually, I was able to tie with him. Brother, are we really not going to help? The third in command asked. What nonsense are you talking about? With Big Brother's strength, why would he need to? But it seems that my brother is dying. The third in command interrupted the second in command and said with a worried look on his face. The second in command turned around when he heard the sound. F***CK. Big Brother. The boss was beaten back step by step without knowing when, and his whole body was covered in blood. It seemed that he was about to be killed by Su Mo's sword. The two leaders exclaimed and quickly joined the battle. With 3 against 1, they quickly turned the tide. The 3 bosses once again suppressed Su Mo. Su Mo was exhausted from dealing with it, and was about to be defeated. You'd better die. Do you want to die? You were defeated half an hour ago, and you're still defeated now. He was anxious. Seeing Su Mo was about to lose, but he didn't lose. The big boss couldn't help but said angrily, Is there a possibility that none of the 3 of us can take him down? The third master said hesitantly. He blocked Su Mo's sword with one sword, but his body was covered with blood. He was the lowest level, and in the chaos, Su Mo's attacks were mostly directed at him. It was obvious that they wanted to use him as a breakthrough point. Use your brain, how is this possible? He is so young. As soon as the second in command opened his mouth, he took a sip without thinking. Then, squeak! A dazzling cold light flashed by, and the second in command quickly retreated. His neck was only an inch away from the tip of the sword, but the sword did not touch him. He was sure of it, so he dodged. Just about to say something. Then I saw a very thin line of blood appear on my neck. He was stunned, and covered his neck, where the blood was flowing. He staggered backwards. Before he died, his eyes were wide open and he died with his eyes open. How is this possible? I dodged it. I clearly dodged it. Yes, you did, I can prove it. Su Mo raised her little hand and answered. It's a pity that the second in command is dead and can't hear anything anymore, as he was killed by a sword in the throat. Sword Chi. This is impossible. How can you use Sword Chi at such a young age? The eldest master was at the highest level, but he could see clearly. The second in command dodged the sword, but a sharp sword energy slashed out along the edge of the Qinghong's sword. He dodged the sword blade but failed to avoid the sword energy, and was eventually killed by the sword. But because I saw it clearly, I was even more surprised. What kind of monster is this? Why is there such a young warrior? He actually released sword energy with just one swing of the sword. You know, many masters of the Dan state cannot comprehend the sword energy. Ding, you have unleashed your potential in desperate situations, and you are getting braver and braver. You have been upgraded. Ding, you have unleashed your potential in desperate situations, and your skill level has been raised. Ding, you have successfully comprehended the sword energy, and your basic sword skills have been upgraded. Ding, you killed the second boss of Langya Mountain. Experience value plus 100,000, reputation value plus 100. Ding, you have upgraded. Name Su Mo. Level 2634, mid-stage dark power. Experience 7421/120000. Skill Changhong Sword Skill LV8 1042/50,000, reaching the peak. Dragon Tiger Fist LV7 19999/20,000, mastering the art. Dragon Walk Tiger Step LV8 342/50,000, reach the pinnacle. Sword Realm LV1 1/100, Sword Chi. Basic Punches and Kicks LV8 345/2000, great. Basic Movement Level 8 234/2000, great. Evaluation, enter the hall. Has the basic swordsmanship been replaced by the Sword Realm? The Changhong swordsmanship and the dragon-walking tiger steps have also successfully broken through the bottleneck, but the dragon tiger fist has not. Is it because I haven't used the dragon tiger fist in battle? Looking at his latest attribute panel, Su Mo muttered to himself. Evaluation has also come into its own. But this sword energy is so powerful that it can actually allow me to fight at a higher level. After looking at the level, the registration number shows level 34, which means that he can burst out the strength of the middle stage of Huajin with his sword energy. He can definitely fight against opponents of higher levels. Comprehending sword energy can be said to be the thing that makes Su Mo happiest. At such a young age, you can actually comprehend the sword energy? And you are a peerless genius who can break through the gap between life and death. But it's a pity that a genius like you will die in my hands. Ha ha! It's really exciting to think about killing a genius personally. The boss suddenly laughed out loud towards the sky. I don't know if it was the death of the second in command that completely shocked him, but he spoke like a madman. I didn't want to use this trick, but now I'll show you my ultimate. Squeak. The words haven't been finished yet. A flash of cold light passed by. Su Mo swung his sword and came behind the boss. A line of blood streaked across the air. The boss was stunned, covered his neck, and staggered backwards. He didn't even have time to react and was killed by a sword. After swinging the sword 10,000 times day and night without stopping, Su Mo's absolute control over the sword enabled him to accurately locate the vital points and deliver a fatal blow. So much nonsense. Su Mo and Dao. How did you suddenly become so strong? Before he died, the head of the family said with a trembling voice, feeling the fluctuations of the late stage of dark energy on Su Mo's body. The gradually fading consciousness revealed deep astonishment and disbelief. He hasn't even used his ultimate move yet. This is a lack of martial ethics. Don't you know that I can level up? If you can't kill me with one strike, I will only get stronger. Su Mo shrugged helplessly. Are you strong? I got it by cheating. Ding, you killed the boss of Langya Mountain. Experience value plus 200,000, reputation value plus 100. Ding, you've been upgraded. I've actually leveled up again. It turns out that killing monsters, especially small bosses like this, is the fastest way to level up. Feeling the warmth enveloping me once again, my body and fitness becoming stronger and stronger. Su Mo couldn't help but sigh. The feeling of being able to level up by killing a monster is so cool. He has never leveled up so quickly before. He raised his eyes and looked at the frightened third master. Su Mo grinned, revealing 2 small canine teeth. He is just a child. The next moment, a figure moved, and Su Mo had already drawn his sword and left. There is still a lot of experience points waiting for him in the entire Langya Mountain. The third in command looked at the child. No. That was clearly a demon. The little devil still showed his teeth. He was still smiling. Oh my God! The third master was frozen in place, completely terrified. The next moment, the demon disappeared. Brush. When he reappeared, he was already outside the cave. A brilliant sword light flashed through the crowd. All those who were still stunned had no time to react. Puff. A blood mark began to appear on the neck, and blood gushed out. In just 1 second, all the people in the cave were killed by the sword. The third in command covered his neck and watched himself being treated as a small monster and killed with one sword. I was completely dumbfounded. Just now I wasn't that strong. Weren't we able to fight each other just now? How come in the blink of an eye? At the end of the third in command's field of vision, there was a small figure that walked away without looking back. That's not a child at all, it's clearly a demon, a monster. Just now was just now is now. You don't understand the life of a fool. Su Mo muttered, as if he had heard the third master's last words. Ding, you killed the third boss of Langya Mountain. Experience value plus 100,000, reputation value plus 100. Ding, you killed the bandit Xiao Qi. Experience value plus 5,000, reputation value plus 1. Ding, you killed the bandit Xiao Zhao. Experience value plus 5,000, reputation value plus 1. Ding, you've been upgraded. Human life is worthless. It's not much more troublesome than killing a chicken. Su Mo murmured, with a complicated look in his eyes. The Qihong's sword had already been stained with blood, and it had a bit more evil spirit. Scarlet blood dripped from the tip of the sword. Su Mo's small body stood in a sea of blood and corpses. In his previous life, he had never killed anyone. But now, at the age of only 8, he has already killed hundreds of people. Although they are all bandits, they do not need any sympathy. But these are not monsters in the game, but real living beings. Heaven and earth are unkind and treat all things as straw dogs. Su Mo whispered softly. At this moment, my mood changed slightly. You have glimpsed life and death in the killing, level plus 1. Can this be upgraded? Su Mo was completely shocked and called him an expert. I am here to express my feelings and thoughts, system. You are not right? Is it so old-fashioned? Full marks in Chinese reading comprehension? Shaking his head, Su Mo no longer dared to sigh casually. I'm afraid that if I'm not careful, it will escalate again. I didn't care about these things and continued to fight monsters and level up, which was more fun. Next, all the bandits in Langyam Mountain were slaughtered by him. The level directly broke through the late stage of dark energy and reached the early stage of transformation energy. A few months later. I never thought that I, Zhuoshan Diao, would be defeated by a little kid today. Ha ha ha, I have no regrets in my death. No regrets. To see a peerless demon like you being born, I... Squeak. A flash of cold light passed by. The already seriously injured eagle fell on his back, unable to speak any more. Do villains always talk so much? They're about to die but still trying to make their presence known? Su Mo was speechless. The Qihong's sword had been stained red with blood. After a few beautiful swings, it disappeared and was stored in the backpack space. The backpack space has its own cleaning and maintenance function, so Su Mo usually puts the Qihong's sword into the backpack for maintenance, and uses it to clean blood and dirt. In addition, once you face the enemy, others will think that you are unarmed and will be careless. It is so cool to summon it directly from nothingness and catch the opponent off guard. Ding, you killed the leader of Luoshan village, Zhuoshan Diao. Experience points plus 500,000, reputation points plus 500, bronze treasure chest 1. Ding, you've been upgraded. Ding, you have wiped out a mountain of bandits, reputation plus 1,000. Name Su Mo. Age 8. Reputation 20,000, chivalrous and righteous. Level 41, 46, early stage of Dan Bao. Experience 14325/500000. Skills: Changhong Sword Skill LV9, 2431/50,000, reaching the pinnacle. Dragon Tiger Fist LV8, 19784/50,000, reaching the pinnacle. Dragon Walk Tiger Step LV8, 21435/50,000, reaching the pinnacle. Sword Realm LV1, 37 out of 100, Sword Chi, Basic Fists and Kicks LV8, 1353/2000, Great Mastery, Basic Body Movements LV8, 1543/2000, Great Mastery. Items: Bronze Treasure Chest, Qihong's Sword, some food and clothes. Evaluation: reaching the pinnacle. Finally reached level 41, the Baodan realm. Su Mo sighed. He was standing in a sea of blood and corpses. There were corpses all over the ground, all of them killed by his sword. All the bandits on the mountain had been slaughtered by him. In the past few months, he fought battles one after another and cleared 7 maps. The upgrade speed soared like a rocket, reaching the highest level in history. But the price is, of course, these thousands of lives. At this moment, Su Mo's delicate little face was covered in blood, and his whole body exuded an astonishing murderous aura. Standing on the corpses on the ground, he looked even more weird and terrifying. Who would have thought that this would be an 8-year-old child? Bronze treasure chest, what is this? Su Mo shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He turned his gaze to the bronze treasure chest in the inventory, and a hint of excitement appeared in his eyes. When I opened the system space, I saw the bronze treasure chest lying quietly in my backpack, blooming with colorful light, showing off its style. Su-Mo opened the treasure chest with a thought. Ding, you got 10 special lollipops. Ding, you got Ice Soul Flower 10. Ding, you got the purple jade flute. Name, special lollipop. Attribute, giving it to a woman will gain some favorability, depending on the face. Comment, a must-have for trafficking underage girls. I heard that kids nowadays are hard to coax. That's because the lollipops are not in place. If one doesn't work, then two. Name, Ice Flower. Attribute, giving it to a woman will gain some favorability, depending on her appearance. Evaluation, a blue flower that grows on cliffs in extremely cold places. It is famous for its bright colors and is loved by teenage girls. It is a must-have for trafficking teenage girls. Name, Purple Jade Flute. Attribute, when played, it will increase the spirit of creatures within the range by +10. Evaluation, it was made by a master craftsman in Beijing with painstaking efforts over several years. It is famous for its beautiful shape and excellent sound quality. It is a symbol of noble status for the sons of Beijing's aristocratic families. It is indeed a powerful tool for showing off. I hope the host will use it with caution. Why does this treasure chest feel a bit unserious? Looking at the items that were opened, Su-Mo looked at them again and again. He looked strange and couldn't help but complain. Could it be that the system is anxious? Su-Mo stroked his chin and thought. After all, he still has an ultimate mission, which is to capture someone with the status of an empress. But now, he has made no progress and can't even find anyone. And these props are obviously prepared for those who want to conquer the position of the empress. You're afraid I can't get it? Su-Mo felt the path of truth. But I already have Luo Shi in my heart. Even if the conquest is successful, I cannot take responsibility. There will be no result with that person. This is forcing me to play with other girls' feelings. If possible, Su-Mo really didn't want to complete this task, but if he didn't complete it, he couldn't return. Next, let's look for clues about whether there is someone with the status of an empress. Su-Mo's path of success. The status of an empress, and he must be conquered before he breaks through the void. Hiss, in this small plane, is there really anyone who can break through the boundary and ascend? Su-Mo couldn't help but have deep doubts at this time. Today, Su-Mo has cultivated to the Baodan realm. Naturally, he senses that the strength of this world is far inferior to the earth after his spiritual energy has been revived. And the strong people who are born are naturally not as good as those in the main world. Since you are an empress, you are definitely not an unknown person. You can just look for the most talented woman in this world. Su-Mo muttered to himself, his small figure walking away on the pile of corpses. After coming down from the mountain, Su-Mo rode his Arabian horse again. We arrived at Wanhe County, the nearest mountain town. Su-Mo first went to the best cloth shop in the county town and changed into the most expensive and best clothes in the shop, while washing away the evil spirit and fishy smell on his body. As for where the money came from, it was naturally the proceeds from suppressing bandits. He had wiped out 7 bandit dens, and now he was so poor that he only had money left. After changing out of her plain clothes, Su-Mo's image is even more eye-catching. It can be seen from the infatuated eyes of the shopkeeper, and the surprise that flashed in the eyes of the customers who frequently turned back. Hiss, this young man is so handsome. Yeah, I've never seen such a handsome boy in my life. I really want to take him home. Hush, keep your voice down. This guy is obviously a young master from a wealthy family. His servants must be watching him. Be careful what you say. The deliberately suppressed voices came from the surroundings from time to time. With Su-Mo's current state of being in the early stage of Baodan, he could naturally hear them clearly. Su-Mo smiled slightly. As he grew older, he had become more and more extraordinary, with a handsome and elegant appearance, like a beautiful young man. Coupled with the way he was dressed, It was obvious at first glance that he was the young master of a wealthy family. It would be perfect if it just lacked 2 servants to serve by its side. The most urgent task now is to find out the news about the person with the status of the Empress, and find a new map to level up. But where can I get the news? Suemo stroked his chin in thought, then his eyes lit up. I thought of a place to go. Then, he left the cloth shop under the reluctant gaze of the shopkeeper. Half an hour later. Young master, this is not the place for you to come. The woman in red said helplessly. Ah? Why, sister? Are you bad people? The cute little boy in front of him asked in a cute voice with his big innocent eyes. Well, we are not bad people. Then you didn't open the door to welcome guests today? The door is open and guests are welcome. That's right, wasn't it you who said come and play just now? That's exactly what I said. Then why don't you let me in? The boy grumbled in dissatisfaction. Because this place is a brothel. The woman in red held her forehead and sighed. Their brothel does welcome many guests, but how could a little kid who looks less than 10 years old come to the brothel? Could it be that he came in to look for his father? Who said that children can't enter brothels? The little boy in front of him frowned and asked in dissatisfaction. I have plenty of money. As he spoke, the little boy took out a handful of silver coins. Then, Sir, please come this way? The woman in red hesitated, looking at the silver rushing by, and finally chose to go against her conscience. After all, no one can resist money. That's right, I want the most beautiful sister here. Suemo walked in with big strides, and the silver coins on his body fell to the ground. The woman in red curled her lips, but followed behind and picked it up unnoticed. A few minutes later. Sister, you don't look good, not as good-looking as my wife at all. The little boy glanced at the top lady of Zixinlu, Miss Ziyun, and continued to finish the meal on the table without even looking up. While eating, he did not forget to criticize. Dare you say I'm not good-looking? Ziyun's eyebrows jumped and her fists clenched. If the young master in front of her hadn't given her so much and wasn't so handsome, she would definitely. She absolutely. Seems like she can't do anything? Is it possible to test his depth? Really? The young master actually has a wife? Ziyun had no choice but to smile and asked in pretended surprise. That's right. My wife is very pretty, and she treats me very well. The little boy said. What about your wife? Ziyun asked tentatively. Oh, we broke up. Separate? Forget it, sister. You won't understand even if I tell you, but I will get her back sooner or later. When it comes to this matter, the little boy answered very seriously. Even Ziyun could see a hint of affection in the little boy's handsome eyes, which those stinky men outside didn't have. A little boy could be so affectionate? Ziyun couldn't help but be slightly moved and said, Although I don't understand, I believe you, you will definitely be able to get your wife back. Well, sister, you are so nice to talk to. These are all for you. Suemo said, and took out a large pile of silver from his arms and handed it to Ziyun. Sister, let me ask you something. Suemo said this while eating. Okay, sister will definitely tell you everything I know. Ziyun happily took the money, thinking that this young master was really easy to please. He is also very affectionate. It seems that as long as his wife is praised, he will give her money. He must love his wife very much. The affectionate little boy in front of him said with a longing look, Sister, do you know who are the most beautiful and powerful women in the world? Don't get me wrong, I'm just curious. I don't want to marry her. Ziyun. Forget it, all men in the world are the same, no matter how big or small. There are many most beautiful women in the world. I can't list them all, but the most beautiful and powerful one. They should be the eldest sister Zhou Ruoxun from the Ame sect, the famous female devil Wei Yao from the demon sect, and the great master Mei Chongqing from the sword sect. These 3 are all extraordinary women in the world. Their talents, and looks are among the best in the world. Ziyun said, looking energetic, her beautiful eyes full of longing, revealing a kind of star-chasing yearning. By the way, young master, I don't know which woman you are looking for? Of course I'll look for them all. The affectionate little boy in front of him scratched his head and said without thinking, Xian. Bah, you scumbag. One wife isn't enough for you. Why do you need so many wives? Still so young? It seems that Aquaman is raised from childhood. Thank you, sister. These are for you. Suemo naturally didn't know what Xian was thinking. After getting the information he wanted, he didn't forget to reward him. Brothels are the places where chivalrous men of the Jianghu linger and often visit, and they are the places where good and bad people mix together. Many people from all walks of life gathered here, numb with alcohol and holding beautiful women in their arms. It's inevitable to brag about the young lady. Pretending to be cool is a common problem among men, especially in front of women. Spit out everything that can and cannot be said. So this is naturally the best place to get information. Sister, how about I redeem you, and you come home with me to be a maid? Suemo said with a smile. Xian's beautiful eyes widened, her rosy lips opened and closed, and she felt her heart beating wildly. She was of low status. This was the first time someone had said this to her. She was caught off guard and was completely stunned. At this moment I was so nervous that I couldn't help but avoid looking and stammered, unable to speak for a long time. My God, are all the little scumbags nowadays so good? Or is it just this gifted talent? Looking at the little boy in front of him with a bright and dazzling smile and high spirits, Xian couldn't help but fall into deep doubt. After a long while, he pursed his lips and said, That won't work. I'm the top star. Suemo didn't say anything else, but just picked up a large pile of gold. At this time, he decided to let his money speak for itself. After leaving the brothel, with my current strength, it is far from enough to find these people who are suspected to be empresses. It seems that I have to level up first. Suemo walked onto the street, stroking his chin in thought. After all, the identities of these people are not simple. He has no identity or background and no strength. He is just a little kid. It is still unclear whether he can meet these famous and extraordinary women. Young master, where are we going next? Xian, the former top girl in the brothel, said Sumo's pretty maid. She was now leading Sumo's Arabian horse, carrying some of her own small luggage, and following behind her young master. The reason why he brought this burden with him was because he was unfamiliar with the place and didn't even know some of the forces in the underworld. Even with the help of the map system, he had never left the village and lacked understanding of some ancient forces and living habits. It will take a long time for him to become familiar with these. And having a pretty maid, especially one who knows a lot about the martial arts world and the situation of the major forces, will save a lot of trouble. You won't be taken advantage of because you don't understand the market situation. As for why Xian was chosen as the maid, this girl is simply more deceptive, and she's also pretty pleasing to the eye. Xian, do you know if there are some evil organizations in this world? Suemo asked. An organization that has committed many evil deeds? Yes. Nowadays, the evil ways are rampant, and the righteous ways are weak. Many evil organizations have wantonly harmed the common people, and no one has been able to stop them. Xian said immediately. I know about the Evil Valley, and the Blood Cloud Village. They are all demons who kill without blinking an eye. They are so bad. Xian said, quite indignant. Come on, take me there. Sumo's eyes lit up immediately and said, It's better to be a bit bad, because he lacks such a good place to level up. The more evil a person is, the more ruthless he will be in killing. Young master, what do you want to do? For some reason, Xian always felt that the young master's shining eyes seemed to have some ill intentions. It's like someone is going to be in trouble. Master, please don't do anything rash, I'm afraid you'll suffer. Xian said with a bitter look on her pretty face. You should be worried about them getting hurt. Suemo said with some amusement. Well, since the young master insists on going, then you can go to Fengyu Tower. There they collect information about the demons all over the world, as well as various bounties posted by people who have been harmed by the demons. As long as you become a killer there, you will naturally know the specific clues of the demons. Seeing that persuasion was ineffective, Ziyun had no choice but to speak. Come to Fengyu Tower. Young master, are you going to apply for a killer order for your maid? The owner of the Fengyu Tower branch asked. No, leave it to myself. Su Emo stood on tiptoe to reach the registration counter. Even so, he only showed half of his face and a pair of big, watery and beautiful eyes, and replied seriously. At the same time, I secretly complained in my heart, what kind of Fengyu Tower is this? There is not even a chair. Bad review. As if he could just have a chair. Oh? Then I wonder what level of assassin order the young master wants to apply for? We in Feng Manlu have 4 great assassin orders, from the highest to the lowest. They are Tian Di Xianhuang. The lowest level of Yellow Letter Order also requires a Dark Force Master to apply for it. The owner of Fengyu Tower suppressed his inner curiosity and introduced the story in a good-tempered manner. He was not displeased because the boy in front of him might be curious or unreasonable. After all, in his opinion, a child under 10 years old wants to be a killer. Isn't this just nonsense? However, this handsome young man with extraordinary bearing also brought with him a pretty maid. It's simply the standard configuration of a young master from a wealthy and powerful family. It's better not to offend unless it's absolutely necessary. So the owner of Fengmanla patiently explained that he was not dissatisfied with Su Majin's remarks. He just gave a brief hint of the level requirement of the yellow letter, hoping that the young master in front of him would give up. Then just apply for a Tianzi token for me. Su Emo said nonchalantly. Young master, you are joking. Only a master of the generation can apply for the Tianzi Ling token. The owner of Fengmanla's eyelids twitched. This little brat really dares to say that. You have to know that there are only 2 grandmasters in the world who are willing to register in Feng Manlu. Moreover, he is just a title here, a gimmick, and it is impossible for him to really take action in person to complete any Tianziling mission. Is that so? Then I'll get an Earth order first, and then I'll get a Heaven order after a while. Su Emo said without thinking. That requires at least the cultivation level of Baodan realm. The owner of Fengyu Tower looked a little unhappy. Whose naughty child is this? Isn't he making trouble? Isn't that just right? Su Emo raised his eyebrows, then pointed at himself and said seriously. I have the elixir. Although his level is not yet reached, but his actual combat power is indeed at the Baodan realm. He doesn't have the time to take on low-level tasks. If the young master really wants to apply, then he may have to verify whether he has the strength of the Baodan realm first. Deputy Master Fengmanla closed his eyes and didn't want to say anything more. I was already preparing to teach this brat a lesson and let him suffer a little loss. Let's see if he dares to be so arrogant next time. How do I verify it? Su Emo asked. You'll know soon, young master. Whose little boy is this? He wants to be a killer? He's still breastfeeding, right? Not long after, a rebellious voice sounded. Su Emo glanced at him. Huh? He was only level 41, the early stage of Baodan. Then he glanced at his own level 46, the late stage of Baodan, the ultimate combat power. Su Emo was naturally disdainful. He decided not to speak and pretend to be aloof. On the other hand, the pretty maid next to her was so anxious that she looked like she was about to bite someone. She bared her teeth, revealing her 2 little fangs, like a tigress protecting her cubs. What are you talking about, you big guy? Ziyun rolled up his sleeves and prepared to fight. Wow, isn't this Miss Ziyun, the top girl in the brothel? Why, she's been redeemed now. Don't you care about our friendship? The man looked at Ziyun from head to toe for a long while, and then seemed to recognize him. An obscene smile on his face. Ziyun's entire body froze in place, no longer as vigorous as before. She was born in a brothel, and this will be her eternal pain. At this time, the scar was exposed in public. You can imagine how he felt, seeing her trembling all over. Su Emo stepped forward, stood on tiptoe, and patted her shoulder. Ziyun's delicate body indeed calmed down. The middle-aged man did not let go and said while hitting him, For a fellow like you, I really don't know how lucky you are to meet a rich young master. if you asked me. Brush. Before he could finish his words, everyone's eyes blurred and a shadow flashed by. Before everyone could react, a small figure was already in the air, kicking the middle-aged man in the face. Then, the middle-aged man's face was deformed and he flew backwards like a spring. Boom! It was like a thunderous explosion, which actually broke through the wall of Fingyu Tower. The remaining force continued to move straight along the street. Smoke and dust are everywhere. The entire street was filled with thick dust due to the huge impact. When the smoke settled, then I saw that a deep ravine had appeared on the street connecting Fingyu Tower. At the end of the ravine was a middle-aged man lying on the ground, his life or death unknown. On the other side, a handsome young man calmly adjusted the non-existent dust on his clothes. One kick, just one kick, he concentrated the power of the Dragon Tiger Fist, which had already reached its peak, into his legs, and in an instant he burst out with a combat power of level 44, comparable to that of the middle stage of Bao Dan. The level 41 passerby in front of him, who was in the early stage of Bao Dan, was kicked so hard that he could not take care of himself. "My maid, it's not your turn to make irresponsible remarks." The boy spoke calmly. The whole place was silent. The pedestrians on the road had already stopped and stared at the scene in a daze. Then he swallowed subconsciously and remained silent for a long time. "Master, am I qualified?" Su Mo raised his eyebrows and tilted his head to look at the owner of Fingyu Tower. The owner of Fingyu Tower stood there stiffly, feeling a chill down his spine. At this moment, he felt a shocking murderous and evil aura coming from the calm-looking young man in front of him. This boy has killed more than one person. Before, he didn't know what it meant to kick someone at the peak of Hua Jin to death, but now he knows. He had never known before that a person's murderous aura could be so strong, as if it had materialized, making him feel as if he was facing a sea of blood and corpses. Now, he saw it. And all of this was brought to him by this incredibly good-looking, calm-looking boy in front of him. How can this be called a young boy? This is clearly a demon. Swallowing subconsciously, the owner of Fingyu Tower nodded dully. Playing with the silver plate representing the Earth character order in his hand, Su Mo looked at the pretty maid who was already frightened beside him and called out, "Xian, let's go." "Oh, I understand, master." The maid nodded heavily and hurried to follow. After the master and servant walked away, the owner of Fingyu Tower suddenly thought of something and slapped his head. "Well, we haven't come up with a code name yet." Every killer in Fingyu Tower has his own exclusive code name. But they had gone far away. Thinking of the terrifying murderous aura and evil spirit on the young man in white. The owner of Fingyu Tower is in Sumo's file. With great helplessness, he wrote down 3 words. "Little devil." A few months later. "Are you the head of the Blood Cloud village?" Su Mo stood at the neck of the leader of Shiyun village with a sword in hand and asked with his head tilted. This was his first mission after becoming a Xian Ziling assassin. Take the head of the leader of the Blood Cloud village. But at this time, the bodies lying on the ground clearly showed that this wasn't just about taking one person's head. This was clearly about wiping out the entire Blood Cloud village. You are. Brush. A blinding cold light flashed, and the head fell to the ground. Su Mo didn't even give him a chance to speak. "Forget it, it doesn't matter. Anyway, you deserve to die." Su Mo and Dao. Looking at everything that Shiyun village had done, the entire population of Shiyun village had already been sentenced to death. They kidnapped women and children, raped and killed young girls, and then sold them to brothels after using them. There is a dirty chain of interests behind it, which is capable of committing all kinds of evil. There are too many similar crimes to list in detail. 1 year later. "Little devil. You should never provoke my evil valley. Ha ha ha, today, you are surrounded by the 7 of us villains. You can't escape even if you have wings. Brothers, set up the 7-star sword formation." 7 ugly villains surrounded Su Mo. The position where each person stands is very particular, and there is no blind spot. If Su Mo goes to any side, he will be attacked by 7 people at the same time. And Sumo's attack will be dispersed by the 7 people. Everyone says that you, little devil, are notorious and are a devil that specializes in dealing with evil people. Today, I, the Evil Valley, refuse to believe it. Remember, the one who will kill you is... Brush. Before he finished speaking, Sumo slashed out with his sword. A dazzling sword beam flashed across. Boom. 7 people flew backwards at once, spitting blood. This is impossible, out-of-body sword energy. Isn't this an attack method that only masters can use? You are obviously only at the Baoden level. Why? The 7 were shocked. The Grand Master can turn the sword energy into a body and form sword light. Baoden is still a close-range physical attack, but the Grand Master already has long-range attack capabilities. The two are completely incomparable. However, someone in the Baoden realm could wield a sword, which was unheard of in the eyes of everyone. But Sumo was too disdainful to answer. Brush. The next moment, Sumo's figure flashed, and he was entangled with everyone like a flash of lightning. Their sword formation was broken, their sword skills were shattered. In a head-on battle with Sumo, he was completely suppressed, and Sumo swung out a sword beam from time to time. It made the 7 people defenseless. With Sumo's current sword realm at LV3, they were quickly defeated one by one. When the 7 people turned into corpses, Sumo gently wiped the sword and murmured, "No reason, you are facing a hanging wall." He always disdained to answer questions from his enemies. They will complain a few more words after killing the enemy. At this time, he was dressed in white, his figure became more and more upright, standing on the ground full of corpses, yet he was not stained by the mud. In the past 2 years he has taken on all the tasks in Feng Man Lu and killed the evildoers with fear. To this day, anyone who has committed many evil deeds is afraid of being suddenly approached by him, and he has already made people terrified. But because of this, he offended too many people, and fearing that it would affect the little maid, Sumo gave the remaining silver to her and let her leave on her own. He is in the late Baoden stage. Maybe we can have a try with those women who are suspected to be empresses. At this time, Sumo murmured, thinking in his heart. 2 years later. I am Sumo, may I invite your Majesty Zhou Roxuan to see me? In front of the Amasex Mountain Gate, Sumo asked politely. You wait here for a moment. I will go and inform Senior Sister. The girl looked at Sumo secretly for a moment, then walked away blushing. In the distance, she could still be heard muttering, how could he be so handsome? Could he be Sister Roxuan's adopted husband? Sumo. After a while. You looking for me? Zhou Roxuan raised her eyebrows and looked at the unbelievably handsome young man in front of her. Her heart moved. Could it be that this little brother is one of his admirers? If that's the case, seeing how good-looking he is, it's not impossible for me to. Ba, Zhou Roxuan, oh Zhou Roxuan, do you have no shame? What are you thinking about? Others are still so young. Zhou Roxuan's face suddenly became hot. Sumo looked Zhou Roxuan up and down seriously, and was just surprised by the sudden blushing of the woman, and then turned a blind eye to it. However, after watching for a moment, a hint of disappointment flashed across Sumo's heart. The person with the status of an empress is not her. But if Zhou Roxuan wasn't the one, then who else could it be? A woman with extraordinary talent. Wei Yao, the witch of the demon cult? Mei Changqing, the Grand Master of the sword cult? Sumo shook his head and stopped thinking about it. But now that I'm here, I certainly can't make a trip in vain. I am Sumo, and I have come to ask Senior Sister Zhou to teach me the sword. Sumo just bowed and clasped his fists and said. For him, winning would mean free experience points, so he naturally couldn't let it go. What? Zhou Roxuan was dumbfounded. He came all the way to Mount Amei just to compete with her. What's the point of this? Okay, little brother, don't say that your sister is bullying you. I will stand here and let you make 3 moves. If you can make me draw my sword, I will lose. You don't have to underestimate yourself. At your age, you are already extremely talented for being able to make me use my sword. I am definitely not as good as you at your age. Sister is taking advantage of you. Zhou Ruoxuan added, apparently still worried about hurting the little brother's self-esteem. Then here I come. Sumo's polite editor reminded me. Since Zhou Ruoxuan said so, it was difficult for him to refuse. After all, they are seniors who have been famous for a long time, have the image burden of being an idol, and are unwilling to bully the weak. Su Emo expressed his understanding. Bring it on. Zhou Ruoxuan stood there casually, not defending herself, and didn't seem to take the three-move agreement seriously. Instead, he secretly looked at Su Emo. Alas, this brother is good-looking, but unfortunately he is a fool. Zhou Ruoxuan sighed inwardly. I'm really here. Seeing that Zhou Ruoxuan didn't put up any defense, Su Emo frowned and reminded again. Come on, come on. Zhou Ruoxuan didn't care. The next moment. Brush. A shocking sword energy shot up into the sky, dazzlingly bright. With a panic-stricken momentum, he slashed towards Zhou Ruoxuan. Zhou Ruoxuan's eyes were instantly filled with the vast sword energy that filled the sky. The hairs all over her body stood up at this moment, and a strong sense of life and death crisis surged in every cell of Zhou Ruoxuan. Zhou Ruoxuan was almost a smart person. At the critical moment of life and death, she burst out her life potential. Almost as if it was an instinctive reaction, Zhou Ruoxuan swung out the strongest sword she had ever used. Boom! The two sword energies collided in the air, powerful sword energy spread out, and shock waves echoed. Because it was a hasty resistance, Zhou Ruoxuan's sword energy was immediately broken, but with the previous blocking of the sword energy, she also avoided the fatal life and death crisis. However, the whole person still flew straight up, and was cut and flew backwards like a ball. Boom! In an instant the mountain shook, the earth trembled, and a large cloud of dust was raised. After the smoke dissipated, it was discovered that Zhou Ruoxuan's delicate body had been embedded in the mountain. After a long while, Zhou Ruoxuan finally struggled out of the mountain, with a trace of bright red blood already flowing from her mouth. Zhou Ruoxuan. Su Emo. An unknown junior sister from the Ame sect. Su Emo didn't expect Zhou Ruoxuan to be weaker than he thought, so he used his strongest sword move as soon as he attacked, without holding back at all. Result. Are you okay? Su Emo avoided the question with some embarrassment. You despicable villain, you attacked me by surprise, Zhou Ruoxuan said coldly. This is not a competition at all, it's clearly a desire to kill her. Su Emo was speechless for a moment. Can I say I didn't expect you to be so weak? This pill is quite effective. Would you like to try it? Hesitantly, Su Emo took out the life-saving pill that he had previously prescribed from the system from his backpack. You shameless little thief, do you think I will still believe you? Zhou Ruoxuan said with hatred. He used his sword to support himself so as not to fall down again. Despicable, shameless. This shameless guy actually used his Shotokan characteristics to confuse me. Then he pretended to compete with me. This is not a competition at all, it's clearly an attempt to kill me. Fortunately, I still thought about not bullying him and let him take 3 moves. It's really useful, Su Emo said sincerely. Seeing that she didn't seem to want to take it, I thought I had to come over and feed her. Look at the sword, you vile creature! Seeing Su Emo approaching, Zhou Ruoxuan stabbed with the sword without saying a word. Su Emo knew he was in the wrong, so he slightly turned his body and dodged without resisting. You little thief, I would rather die than eat your food, Zhou Ruoxuan said as she waved her sword stubbornly. But the breath became more and more disordered. In her opinion, the elixir must not be a good thing. Maybe it's a pill that makes her unable to stop and her mind is full of embarrassing thoughts. Although it's true that she is a Shotokan, she doesn't want to be at the mercy of others like this. You have to take the initiative to come. And you have to be on top. You despicable villain, I will never let you control me even if I die. Look at the sword. The more she thought about it, the more ashamed and angry she felt. Zhou Ruoxuan once again dragged her seriously injured body and raised her sword to chop at Su Mo. "I'm sorry." Seeing that Zhou Ruoxuan had been chopping for so long and didn't hit anyone, she was so tired that she was gasping for breath. If this continues, the injury will only get worse. Su Mo had no choice but to tie her up. "Asshole! You're so perverted!" Zhou Ruoxuan was extremely ashamed and angry. Su Mo, after feeding the pill to Zhou Ruoxuan, seeing that her breathing was quickly stabilizing and her injuries were recovering, she should be back to normal in a few seconds. Su Mo breathed a sigh of relief. "Senior Sister Zhou, I didn't mean to offend you. I am really sorry. This pill is my apology. It can save your life in a critical moment," Su Mo said sincerely, leaving another restoration pill on the ground. Brush. He was already using the light kung fu to walk like a dragon and a tiger, leaving a trail of afterimages on the ground before quickly leaving. A few seconds after Su Mo left, Zhou Ruoxuan recovered and easily broke free from the ropes. He looked at Su Mo leaving with complicated eyes. "Pa, you really don't do anything," Zhou Ruoxuan spat. "Little brother, fighting and killing is not good, let's do something more interesting, okay?" The demon goddess looked at the handsome brother in front of her with a charming expression, and her soul-stirring voice slowly sounded. Brush. A flash of cold light passed by. The young man in front of her didn't say much, and the only answer she got was a sword. When facing the enemy, Su Mo never has the habit of talking nonsense. It has been confirmed that Yu Ziqing is not worthy of being an empress, so based on what she has done, there is only one choice but to fight. What a brother who doesn't understand romance! The demon cult witch moved to the side, avoiding the sword light. Looking at the half-cut sleeve, her face turned completely cold. "Just let my slave meet you." The next moment, the demon cult witch raised the whip in her hand. 4 figures rushed over and surrounded Su Mo. I saw that these 4 people were all at the peak of Baodan. But at this time they were all unconscious, and their eyes were confused as they looked at Yu Ziqing, and it was obvious that they had been bewitched. "I love to torture and kill geniuses, especially someone as young and handsome as you. I'm going to cut off your limbs and make you into a human soup. Kill her." Then, the witch said in a cold voice, "The war is about to begin." Half an hour later. Don't kill me, I. The evil witch of the cult knelt on the ground. Her beautiful figure was graceful and extremely alluring and seductive. But at this time he looked terrified and his hair was disheveled. There were many sword scars on his face, and he no longer had the radiant look he had at the beginning. She deliberately pulled down her collar, revealing a piece of snow-white skin. The whole person curled up there looked even more pitiful and charming. It seemed that he heard her plea. Su Mo had already turned away without even looking at her. Seeing Su Mo walking away, Yu Ziqing's eyes flashed with joy. Thought Su Mo let him go. But then, she was stunned. A very thin line of blood appeared on her neck at some point. She covered her neck, but couldn't stop the blood from gushing out. "When?" Finally, she murmured, staring blankly at the receding figure, and the head rolled off. "A witch of her generation dead. Don't kill you? Tell that to the wives who lost their husbands, the children who lost their fathers, and the geniuses you tortured and killed," Su Mo said to himself. Naturally, he wouldn't even look at a dead person, because there was no need. A few months later, rumors spread throughout the society. "Hey, have you heard about it? 4 years ago, the 7 notorious bandit strongholds in the Qinyun Mountains in the north were massacred." "What? Has the man who slaughtered all the bandits been found? Didn't they say that the most powerful was Shanfeng was a master in the Baodan realm? Was Shirtrui killed by the Grand Master?" As time goes by, some things that were originally shrouded in mystery are slowly being revealed through clues by interested people. It's solid evidence, but it's solid evidence. It's not the work of a master at all. Let me tell you, this incident scared some bandits so much that they ran away and said they saw the true face of the hero. What? There is such a thing? What did the bandits who escaped say? Who is that hero? Could it be Mr. Song, nicknamed the Jade-Faced Young Master? Yes, it should be young Master Song. With his strength in the middle stage of Baodan, he is indeed very likely to wipe out the bandits. Hearing this man's guess, the other people in the martial arts world nodded repeatedly. F***CK Mr. Song, the person I'm talking about is nothing in front of him. Who is it? Don't keep me in suspense. Tell me now. Hey, why am I feeling a little thirsty while I'm talking? Waiter, bring some wine, good wine. Tell me now. It's a long story. The bandit was in a state of confusion. He kept saying devil, devil and other words that were difficult to understand. He said something like slash the throat with one sword and little devil, blah blah. So who is it? Which chivalrous hero is it? I told you, little devil. No, no more? No more. Give me back my wine. I've finished my drink. Who is the little devil? You ask me how I know? Anyway, everyone in the underworld calls him the little devil. At the same time. Have you heard? The truth about the notorious Blood Cloud village being destroyed by a mysterious person 3 years ago has finally been revealed. Tell me quickly, who is it? After so many years, I have been looking for that lifesaver. If it weren't for him, my family's blood feud would never have been avenged. Yes, my wife who was not yet married was raped to death by the Blood Cloud village. I have been living in shame and hatred in my heart. I have a mortal enemy relationship with the Blood Cloud village. Tell me, which hero will avenge me? It seems to be called something. Little devil. On the other side. The truth behind the destruction of the Valley of Evil 2 years ago has finally been revealed. Who? Who did it? Could it be a great master? No. It's the little devil. Little devil, why does this name sound so familiar? Oh. I remember now. Was it him who was responsible for the bandits in Shiyun village and Qingyun mountain range? Yes, I remember it too. I was wondering why it sounded so familiar. I never thought that this good deed that shocked the entire martial arts world and made people happy was actually done by one person. At the same time. Have you heard? The senior sister Zhou Ruoxuan of the Ma sect was molested? Are you talking about Zhou Ruoxuan, who is extremely gifted? How is this possible? This woman is extremely talented. She has reached the late Baodan stage at such a young age and has the potential to become a grandmaster. Who dares to tease her? Once again, while drunk, Zhou Ruoxuan slowly uttered 3 words, little devil. Why is it the little devil again? This little devil even bullies my goddess. Didn't Zhou Ruoxuan beat him up? Beating her, not hitting her. No, I mean Zhou Ruoxuan was beaten, and it seems she was also tied up. What happened that night? My goddess. My youth is over. In just a few months, the entire world was in turmoil because of one person. When all those things that once made people happy were revealed to be done by one person, the impact was enormous. That person, nowadays, that person is so famous. It was like appearing out of nowhere, and as soon as it appeared, it dominated the entire world. He is the most rising star in the world. Dazzling and dazzling. Nowadays, he is even hailed as the new generation leader of the righteous path. A few months later. Have you heard that the demon cult witch Yuziching was killed by a single sword? Who is that? That evil woman has committed many evil deeds. She is born with a seductive body and extraordinary talent. She relies on her late Baodan cultivation and her fox charm to be very powerful. She often bewitches and kills loyal people. If you meet her, you will only be bewitched by her. Who can kill her? Yes, that evil woman enjoys bewitching righteous people to kill each other. She takes human life lightly and likes to seduce and kill geniuses the most. In this world, who can kill her unless a master comes out? Could it be that? Everyone took a deep breath and thought of that possibility. Little devil. That's right, it's him. It must be him. No one else can kill that bitch Wei Yao except him. That's right, it must be the little devil. Everyone thought of something and became extremely excited, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Oh no, non, this time it's not a little devil, but a sword fairy. But one person spoke up, with a mysterious look on his face. Sword Immortal? Who is the Sword Immortal? What are his characteristics? Everyone was suspicious. He likes to wear white clothes, wears a purple jade flute, has sword-like eyebrows and star-like eyes, and is handsome and bright, just like a banished immortal descending to earth. He is the Sword Immortal, the man said, with a look of longing on his face. I wonder how that Sword Immortal killed the evil witch from the cult? One sword to the throat. Isn't this the little devil's usual method? Yes, now he is no longer called the little devil. He has changed his name to the Sword Immortal. The man shrugged. Wow, this is awesome. The little devil is actually the sword master. But brother, you have a lot of connections, you even know this kind of news? I see that you have an outstanding temperament, not like an ordinary person. I wonder if we can be friends? Sure. I still don't know your name, brother. Well, you can call me Sword Immortal. I've been called a little devil for so many years. Don't I have any dignity? Listen, the swordsman is much more cool and elegant. His status has risen instantly. Suemo sipped the tea in his hand and thought calmly. As for why not drink? Well, because children can't drink alcohol. He is only 12 years old. Oh? Ha. You are such an interesting little brother, a man of character. To be honest, I am a grandmaster who just came out of seclusion. Zhao Dongxia in front of him smiled teasingly, and it was obvious that she felt that she had met a fellow traveler, and she also boasted about it. I am really a Sword Immortal. Suemo pointed at himself and said helplessly. Why is it that no one believes me when I tell the truth? Oh, yes. My little brother is so handsome, I would believe him if he said he was a deity. Zhao Dongxia said. However, the beautiful young man in front of him was really handsome, with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, and a handsome face. The temperament is also very good. If he hadn't looked so young, Zhao Dongxia would have almost believed him because she was so smart. Do you know about Qingyan Mountain Range? I was the one who destroyed the bandits' den. Suemo said. Oh, yes. Does Evil Valley know? I'm flat. Oh, yes. Do the Blood Cloud Village and the evil witch Wei Yao know about this? I killed them with one sword. Ah, yes. Zhao Dongxia nodded frantically, but that look. It seems to be saying, Beiji, you are naughty again. Does Amei Sec's senior sister Zhou Rakshuan know? Isn't it? Suemo felt like he couldn't continue. It's just boring to pretend to be cool, and no one believes it. Little brother, you don't know that your way is outdated. Look over there. Zhao Dongxia smiled and pointed to the other end of the inn. There, a swordsman in white was seen waving his sword and saying loudly. At that time, I raised my sword and slashed, and wiped out the scoundrels of the Blood Cloud village without leaving a single piece of armor. I have been a chivalrous and brave swordsman all my life. I hate to see injustice in this world. And there. Zhao Dongxia pointed in another direction. There was also a handsome swordsman in white, with a purple cloud flute on his waist. In the battle with the demon cult, I chased that demon girl for 3 days and 3 nights. She was about to be defeated, but she still wanted to seduce me. I have lived a life of honor and integrity as a Sword Immortal. How could I be seduced by her? Without saying a word, I fought her for 3 days and 3 nights. Until she opened her mouth to beg for mercy. She gasped for breath, and I stabbed her to death with one sword. Suemo stared. This is fucking slander. Look, there are already too many people in this world who claim to be Sword Immortals. Zhao Dongxia said helplessly. Senior Sword Immortal is such a genius, amazing and brilliant. He is also chivalrous and upright. He has emerged out of nowhere in the past few years, and has been the best in the world since his birth. He has killed countless villains and avenged countless people. He is truly a role model for the righteous path. So many admirers are vying to imitate him. Zhao Dongxia sighed. His words were also filled with deep admiration and longing for the sword immortal. I'm not as good as you say. Su Mo scratched his head, feeling a little embarrassed. What a pity, Senior Sword Immortal's whereabouts are erratic and he keeps a very low profile, so most people can hardly get a glimpse of his true appearance. And those who have seen it, all kept their mouths shut, as if they were unable to express themselves. Zhao Dongxia automatically ignored Su Mo's expression and said, with a deep sigh, "If I could meet Senior Sword Immortal once, repay his kindness, and get his autograph, then I would have no regrets in my life." Zhao Dongxia sighed, her words filled with regret for not being able to meet the Sword Immortal. "Hey, do you want an autograph?" Su Mo said, looking shy. "It's rare to meet a die-hard fan." "Ha ha ha, you're joking, little brother." Zhao Dongxia smiled, shook her head, and took another big sip of wine. "Hey, I'll go ask that imitation guy over there for an autograph later. Although that imitation guy only looks like he's at the initial stage of Huajin cultivation, there's no way he can be a sword immortal." Zhao Dongxia said helplessly. He had already asked for more than 100 autographs, hoping that one of them would be a genuine one. Su Mo was completely speechless. "Hey, I gave you a chance, but you were useless. Brother Zhao, we hit it off today. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Then don't worry about being grateful to the Sword Immortal. Senior. He may have already known about it." Su Mo said. "Okay, Brother Su. If we meet again in the future, I will tell you everything." Zhao Dongxia raised her hand to edit the video, full of heroic spirit. Su Mo smiled and nodded. "Waiter, check out." As he spoke, he threw a few taels of silver on the table. "Brush." The next moment, Su Mo summoned the Qihong sword, and the whole person turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the sky. Zhao Dongxia! Zhao Dongxia! Zhao Dongxia's whole body froze in place, her pupils contracted violently, and her jaw unconsciously opened as wide as possible. "Where is my brother Su? Where is my brother Su who is so old?" After a long time, Zhao Dongxia finally dropped her jaw in shock and let out a strange cry. "Flying with the wind, at least you have to be a master." Zhao Dongxia slowly calmed down and began to think about what had happened before. It is said that the Sword Immortal Senior never carries weapons, but when facing an enemy, he can summon them out of nothingness. White clothes, purple jade flute, handsome appearance, and extraordinary temperament. And the protective sword energy that has been surrounding Brother Su just now, I always thought it was an illusion. Could it be? At this moment, Zhao Dongxia suddenly thought of something and her face turned pale. Is he really a swordsman? He couldn't help but lose his voice trembling a little. No wonder that Amasec's senior sister Zhou Roxuan, and those who were defeated by Senior Sword Immortal, are so taboo when talking about him. It turns out, he is so young. Thinking of this, Zhao Dongxia revealed an expression that was uglier than crying. "Sword Immortal, give me a chance, but I am useless." Zhao Dongxia felt like crying but had no tears. Who would have thought that the person you have been looking for many years is right in front of you? We were just drinking from the same pot of wine and bragging together? After going around in circles, it turns out that I am the only one bragging here. Others are the ones who are really awesome. Thinking of this, Zhao Dongxia felt even more complicated, and then she seemed to have thought of something. Start by taking a deep breath, sinking the qi into your dantian, and shouting with all your life's strength. Junior Zhao Dongxia, I would like to thank Senior Sword Immortal for killing all the people in Blood Cloud Village. Here, I respectfully send Senior Sword Immortal off. The sound of thunder rumbled and spread directly from the entire inn. Su Mo in heaven also heard it. After thinking for a while, I stayed in the sky for a while longer. People in the entire county could see the white-clothed figure in the sky, stepping on the fairy sword and looking like a banished fairy. The figure in white was flying and circling in the sky, dragging a long tail of light. Soon, 10 large, golden characters were engraved on the horizon. Ride the sword on the wind to slay the demons between heaven and earth. The astonishing sword intent covered the entire world. It pierced out from between the lines. It also revealed a strong sense of righteousness. At the same time, a leisurely and ethereal voice full of endless joy echoed throughout the world. Looking again, the sword fairy turned into a ray of light and fled away. We are waiting to send off Senior Sword Immortal. How could they not understand after seeing that ray of light? The people of the entire city said in unison, knowing it all. The sound rolled over, one after another, covering the entire county. It lasted for a long time. After a long time, when the golden words in the sky faded away, everyone in the inn looked at the source of everything, Zhao Dongxia. Zhao Dongxia cleared her throat and began to speak. That was indeed Senior Sword Immortal himself. He was sitting opposite me at the time. We drank and talked happily, and it was a pity that we met too late. From then on, there was a storyteller in the martial arts world, who specialized in praising the past of Senior Sword Immortal and boasted to everyone that he had drunk with Senior Sword Immortal. That day, Senior Sword Immortal appeared before the crowd, and we witnessed a living legend. What kind of unprecedented and amazing talent could give birth to such a peerless demon in this world? We are so lucky to be from the same era as Senior Sword Immortal. But it's unfortunate that I can only look up at his back all my life and can never compete with him. Everyone in the inn looked at the disappearing light in a daze for a long time, sighing a lot. Today, they witnessed the legend. At this moment, Su Emo was flying on his sword, soaring in the sky, feeling extremely proud. At the age of 12, he created a height that no one in ancient times had ever achieved. He aspired to be a Grand Master, almost at the top of the world. In the past 4 years, there has been endless killing and crazy leveling. The suppressed temperament completely burst out at this moment. He was quite high-spirited. With Sumo's current state, if the older generation doesn't step in, they will be invincible in the world. He reached a height that he had never dared to imagine in his previous life. He now had all the strength to go back. As long as he goes back, his sister's kidnapping can be easily resolved. As long as he goes back, catching up with Luo Shi will no longer be a fantasy. As long as he goes back, all the difficulties will be solved. He can kill anyone who stands in his way with one sword. If only he could go back. At this moment, Sumo's heart was filled with great pride. Ha ha ha, I bet I'm the best in the world, the best here. Luo Shi, Su Xian, wait for me to come back. In front of the Jianzhong mountain gate. Are you here to become my disciple? The woman in green looked at the extremely handsome young man in front of her again and again. She frowned and confirmed. Yes, I have admired Jianzhong for a long time, and I came here to learn from him. The handsome young man in front of him said sincerely. Go away. You can't become my disciple. The woman withdrew her gaze from the boy, shook her head, and rejected him bluntly. Why? The boy was stunned for a moment. You can't teach a master here. The woman was speechless. Not to mention the sword sect, even the whole world cannot teach a master. The Grand Master has already found a path of his own. No, take a closer look. I'm actually still a child. This is the perfect age to become your disciple. The young man said unwillingly. Girl. The woman didn't say anything, but had a strange look on her face. He was looked at as if he were a freak. The boy thought the matter was gone and was about to leave reluctantly. He was sure that the person who could hold the title of Empress was most likely in the sword sect, and he already had a specific candidate. Even if I can't get in now, I will have to find a way to get in sooner or later. Etc. The woman suddenly called him again. Sister, have you changed your mind? The boy asked in surprise. The woman shook her head and said, It's true that we can't teach masters here, but we are short of an elder. Do you want to be one? Sword Immortal. Mei Chongqing looked at the handsome young man in front of him with a strange expression. After repeated confirmation, it cannot be said that there is no connection between them and the sword master in the portrait, but they are exactly the same. Whether it's the way she dresses or the faint protective sword energy floating around her body. All of these indicate the identity of this person. Before she met the Sword Immortal, she thought the rumors were just exaggerations. The Sword Immortal only had the ability to maintain his youthful appearance, and his actual age was about the same as hers. But now it seems, the Sword Immortal is really a beautiful boy who looks like he has just debuted 2.5 years ago. Is there such a good thing? Suemo was stunned for a while and asked. He originally just wanted to be an ordinary, unknown disciple, who at most had a little more talent and was a little more handsome. But now others directly want him to be the elder? Isn't this position promoted too fast? Well, I'm still a child, can I? Suemo pointed at himself uncertainly and asked. If you can't do it, then who can? Mei Chongqing said speechlessly. He has no idea what a Grandmaster is. A Grandmaster, alone, is already as powerful as an entire sect. You can become the ancestor of a clan. If the Sword Immortal, the youngest master in history with the most brilliant military achievements, could not become the elder of the Sword sect, then no one in this world can do it. If you were not a master who grew up in the Sword sect, you would be a worshipper at best, but you and I seem to be from the same lineage. You are practicing the Changhong sword technique, right? Mei Chongqing asked. Yes. Suemo nodded. Well, Changhong sword technique is the entry-level sword technique of our sect. You practice Changhong sword technique, which means you are from the same lineage as my sword sect. Besides this, what other sword techniques have you practiced? Suemo blinked. No more. Mei Chongqing. No more? Do you know what you're saying? Are you trying to say that you have reached the Grandmaster level with just an entry-level sword technique? Mei Chongqing had a look on his face as if he had seen a ghost. Any questions? Suemo blinked. This is a big problem. With the potential of Changhong sword technique, the top is at Huajing level. Even Baodan is difficult. How did you become a Grandmaster? Mei Chongqing felt that his worldview was collapsing. I innovated the Changhong sword technique and created the Huwu Whirlwind sword technique, which I developed to the 18th level and was promoted to Grandmaster. Suemo said honestly. Oh my god, you monster, evildoer. Mei Chongqing muttered to himself. It is no wonder that Mei Chongqing was surprised. Most people rely on their superb swordsmanship to comprehend the artistic conception and swordsmanship of swordsmanship. Only in this way can one improve one's swordsmanship and eventually embark on a path that belongs to one's own. In other words, the higher the level of swordsmanship, the more profound the sword arts contained therein, and the greater the possibility of promotion. To put it simply, it means to use the methods of predecessors to understand one's own way. But Suemo achieved the level of a Grandmaster with just an ordinary sword technique. This is equivalent to creating a new path for oneself. It requires an incredible talent to be able to do this. It seems that you are more evil than I thought. Mei Chongqing smiled bitterly. Since becoming a master, she has always been high-spirited, but facing the young man in front of her, she couldn't help feeling a sense of frustration. By the way, who taught you the Changhong sword technique? Mei Chongqing asked. Master Long Xiaohu. Oh, by the way, here is a token that Master gave to my sister. Suemo said, and immediately took out the token that Long Xiaohu had given him before leaving. If Mei Chongqing hadn't mentioned it, he would have almost forgotten about it. After all, 4 years had passed. However, in the past 4 years, he had already used the pills from the treasure chest to cure Long Xiaohu's old illness. Name Suemo. Age 14. Reputation 1 million, leader of the righteous path. Level 71, Grandmaster's early stage. Experience 231425/10000000. Skill, Sword Realm LV3, 37/1000, Sword Edge. Fire Dance Whirlwind Level 18, Perfect. Dragon Walk Tiger Step LV9, Perfect. Basic Punches and Kicks LV10, Grandmaster. Basic Agility Level 10, Grandmaster. Items: Black Stockings, Special Small Pills, Vitality Medicine, Cure-All Pills, Purple Jade Flute, Special Lollipops 100, Ice Soul Flower 100, Qihong Sword, several strategy props. Evaluation: Grandmaster. In the past 4 years, Suemo has visited most of the places in the world where he can level up. Today, he has entered the realm of Grandmaster. During this period, many treasure chests were also revealed. And many strange and indescribable things were revealed, which were obviously various props used for strategies, but there were also some very real items. How worried is the system about me? Whenever he saw these props, Suemo couldn't help but complain. There was no way he could not be anxious. After all, he hadn't even found the person yet. In addition, several advanced skills have been perfected, and basic boxing and body movements have also entered the realm of Grandmasters. Even the most difficult sword realm to upgrade has been upgraded from level 1 sword energy to the current level 3, which can cut out sword light with one sword. But now his cultivation has reached a bottleneck. First, there were no more maps to play. The experience points provided to him by warriors below the Grandmaster level were already negligible. No matter how many kills he made, the experience points he gained were not enough to level up. The only way to level up is to kill the Grandmaster, but killing a Grandmaster will affect the entire body and will lead to hostility from all the evil forces. This is undoubtedly making enemies with half of the world. But now, the person who is qualified to be the Empress has not been found yet, so it is naturally not the time for the decisive battle. Therefore, if you want to upgrade again, you have to practice sword skills and follow the steps. However, he had already perfected the Changhong sword technique and even the fire dance whirlwind and other martial arts that he had innovated. He had exhausted the potential of these martial arts and could no longer bring him any experience points. Therefore, he must practice more advanced martial arts, learn from the strengths of hundreds of schools, learn from each other and comprehend more martial arts realms. Only in this way can he quickly upgrade. That's why I came to the Sword Sect. This time I came to the Sword Sect, firstly for the Empress's status, and secondly, to steal a higher level of martial arts. He originally wanted to use the token given to him by his former master Long Xiaohu to become a disciple of the Sword Sect. But now, he has directly become an elder. Xiaohu has accepted a good disciple. He actually taught a master. The woman in green had a strange look on her face and looked at the token again and again. Then he said with a complicated expression, "Master has been very kind to me and taught me a lot." Suemo said sincerely, "Pfft, with your talent, even if a dog teaches you, you can become a master." Mei Changqing couldn't help laughing. "Senior, you are joking. I don't know what the relationship between you and my master is." Seeing Mei Changqing teasing like this, Suemo couldn't help but ask curiously, "You and I are from the same lineage. Your master is my master's registered disciple, so you can be considered my nephew." Mei Changqing said, slowly explaining the reason. "It's fortunate that you belong to my sword sect, so you can be an elder." "I see," Suemo points out. At this time, they were walking together towards the gate of the sword sect. There were many sword sect disciples on the road, all of whom saluted Mei Changqing respectfully, and then looked at Suemo with curiosity. Who is that young man? He is so handsome. How come he is so close to the deputy sect leader? I don't know. Could it be a new disciple who has just joined the sect? You don't seem credible. Why would a mere disciple need the deputy sect master to personally welcome him? In my opinion, this person is clearly the deputy sect master's adopted husband. Isn't this what all the big shots like nowadays? Go away, you are even more unreliable. If it were you, I would say this boy must be the illegitimate son of the sect master and the deputy sect master. Otherwise, why would they be so friendly and polite? And when I face this boy, I always feel like I am facing the sect masters. Another disciple lowered his hands and said with a confident look, "Now that you put it that way, it does feel like I'm facing the sect master and the others." The disciples nodded in agreement, all of them feeling the demeanor that only belonged to a master from Suemo. Suemo. Mei Changqing. Suemo and Mei Changqing were already at the Grandmaster level at this time, and even though they were far apart at this time, they could hear their conversation clearly. Wow, young people nowadays really know how to have fun, a bunch of clever little bastards. Su Emo shook his head and sighed inwardly. He felt that he was too old and could not keep up with the thinking of today's young people. The illegitimate child and the child husband have all come out. Mei Changqing's veins jumped when he heard this. Seeing the disciples talking about it, the rumors seemed to be spreading. Mei Changqing flicked his sleeves. Standing with hands behind her back, her red lips slightly parted. From now on, the Sword Immortal officially joins our sword sect and becomes an elder of our sword sect. She didn't open her mouth, but her thunderous and majestic voice spread throughout the entire sword sect. Sword Immortal, let's go first and meet the sect master, Mei Changqing said. Okay. Su Emo points out. Then the two of them flew with the wind, turned into a ray of light, and disappeared into the clouds and mist of the Green Mountains. Hiss, that's actually the Sword Immortal. Oh my god, isn't that the deputy sect leader's illegitimate son? How can he be a Sword Immortal? And he's so young? The disciple who first spread the rumor was dumbfounded. Are you stupid? You took someone else's words seriously? Who else but a Grandmaster can fly with the wind? And the feeling he has that is similar to that of the sect master, and the deputy sect master is clearly the pressure of a Grandmaster. But I didn't expect that the legendary Sword Immortal Senior is actually so young. I won't say any more. I'll go first. Hey, where are you going? I'll wait for a while, to get an autograph. The sword sect, which had been silent for a long time, suddenly became excited because of this sudden news. Everyone cheered and their hearts were boiling with excitement because of the arrival of one person. After all, this is a Sword Immortal. My sword sect has 3 treasured places: the Sword Pond, the Sword Pavilion, and the Cambridge. The Sword Pool collects all the famous swords from ancient times to the present. The famous swords have spirits, and will choose their masters on their own. If you can make this spirit sword recognize you as its master, you can take it. If you can't force it. The Sword Pavilion contains the sword manuals of our sword sect's past generations. As an elder, you can refer to them at will. But as a Grand Master, you have already embarked on a path of your own. Other people's swordsmanship will not be of much help to you. You can just learn from them and comprehend a little. The Cambridge Bridge, also known as the Bridge to Heaven, is 100 steps long and is a great test of one's understanding. Every step you take is like reaching the sky, and is extremely difficult. It is engraved with the supreme sword intent of my successive sword masters. Inside, you cannot display your own sword skills and cultivation. You have to force your way through. Every step requires you to understand and comprehend the sword intent before you can move on to the next step. Only those with extraordinary talent and comprehension can break through. If you can break through the Tongtian Bridge intact, you will be able to obtain the true supreme inheritance of our sword sect. However, no one has been able to get through here for hundreds of years, so my sword sect has gradually declined. The sword sect leader spoke slowly, introducing the sword sect to Su Emo and telling him about the past, his voice filled with regret for the sword sect's decline. This is your identity token. I have registered your identity information in files, and my authority has been adjusted to the highest level. With this token, you can move freely in the sword sect. However, if you want to go to the mountains of other elders and the sect master, you still need to notify them in advance. Oh, by the way, you can pick any of the 3 peaks over there, and it will be your mountain from now on. Sword Immortal, you will be stationed in our sword sect. You don't need to do anything on a daily basis, and the sect will not restrict you. However, you are required to teach the disciples once a month and answer their questions. Also, you must accept at least 1 disciple. I can give you 3 years to pick out suitable candidates for disciples in the annual disciple selection. Then, at the critical moment of life and death for my sword sect, you can take action. Mei Changqing said, explaining the privileges of the sword sect elders one by one. At the same time, he also talked about the obligations that Su Emo should fulfill. The 3 treasured places of Jianzhong were opened to Su Emo for free in exchange for Su Emo teaching the disciples of Jianzhong and leaving his own heritage in Jianzhong. This is fair and reasonable. Su Emo nodded without saying anything more. Anyway, it's just a reincarnation world. Suemo comes here and doesn't mind leaving behind his own heritage. At least prove that you have been here. In this way, Suemo became an elder in the Sword Sect. The most powerful and youngest elder in the Sword Sect's history. The Sword Sect has a total of 7 mountains. Most of the disciples are concentrated on 4 mountains, and there are not many people on the other 3 mountains. At this time, Suemo chose to stay at the 7th smallest hill, Xixia Peak. This place is remote and relatively undisturbed. But only relative. Hurry up, let's go to Xian Peak. Elder Su is giving a lecture today. If you go too late, there will be no seats left. Yes. Every time Elder Su gives a lecture, Xian Peak is packed with people. The queues stretch from the top of the mountain to the end. That's right. It's really a pleasure to listen to Elder Su's class. If you learn math, physics and chemistry well, you won't be afraid to travel around the world. Yes. By the way, have you finished the physics questions that Elder Su assigned last time? It's done. The acceleration of a warrior under Newton's first law. How about you? Have you finished it? The one about the chicken and the rabbit in the same cage? I've finished it, but this question is really difficult. It's a little difficult, but I heard that mathematics can develop our understanding and thinking. It allows us to better understand top martial arts. Physics can provide us with the theoretical basis for martial arts, so that we can not only know the facts but also the reasons behind them. You know what? In just a few days, I have already mastered the Changhong sword technique. No wonder Elder Su has reached the Grand Master level at such a young age. Along the way, the Sword Sect disciples spoke seriously, like a long, majestic dragon, rushing to Xixia Peak in an endless stream. The topic of conversation on the road was all about the famous Elder Su. At this time, Suemo was dressed in a white robe, standing with his hands behind his back, his eyes revealing 3 parts of helplessness and 2 parts of vicissitudes. They asked me to give a class, but they didn't tell me what class I should teach. Is it okay for me to teach them a cultural class? Suemo stroked his chin and thought. Looking at the gradually crowded hall, Suemo cleared his throat. The loud voice echoed throughout the mountain. The way of heaven is to take away the excess and make up for the deficiency. A very cool, normal and meaningful opening, and then Grandmaster Einstein said last time that a warrior's strength is not static, but depends on the right time, right place, right people, right state of mind, and right state of mind. In other words, no warrior has absolute strength, only relative strength. This is Grandmaster Einstein's famous theory of relativity. Oh, giving a lecture is so tiring. After the class, the sun was about to set. The disciples were still not satisfied. Many of them picked up the paper and pen they had prepared and were ready to ask Suemo for his autograph. Suemo has turned into a beam of light and escaped. In fact, cultural courses only account for a very small part of Sumo's lectures. It's just a bad habit to prolong the time in his spare time. Most of the time, I am still imparting martial arts experience and insights step by step. But the disciples seem to be most interested in these cultural subjects. To the point that Suemo had to wonder whether learning cultural subjects well could really help one's understanding of martial arts. Suemo began his life of lying low in the Sword Sect. According to his original guess, Mei Chongqing should be his master before the reincarnation simulation. The person who rescued him from the crowd might also be someone with the fate of an empress. But after some contact, I found that it was not the case. Because the system does not explain. If there is someone with the status of an empress in front of you, the system will prompt you and will also show that the strategy mission is officially started. Could it be that the person who qualifies as the empress has not been born yet? Suemo feels tired. If she hadn't been born yet, how long does he have to wait? Although it takes 100 years here, it only takes a second outside. However, in this world without Luoxi and her family, every day feels like a year. He could only rely on mad practice to numb himself and suppress his longing. At this point, Suemo, in his spare time, he started his crazy leveling career again. If nothing else, if the Empress had not yet been born, then he would have to work hard to improve his cultivation and strive to live to the day when someone with the status of an Empress was born. Then it's better to attack her. A year has passed. Su Emo was reading a book in Jiangna. Ding, you are reading the secret book of the wind sword technique. Due to your high level of sword cultivation, the wind sword technique has been mastered directly. Ding, your sword comprehension has improved, sword realm proficiency +1, experience value +10,000 inch. Ding, you are reading the secret book Crazy Thunder Sword Technique. Due to your high level of sword cultivation, Crazy Thunder Sword Technique has been innovated by you. Comprehending the Thunder Sword Technique, your sword comprehension has improved, sword realm proficiency +100, experience value +100,000 inch. Ding, you've been upgraded. Ding, you have comprehended 3,000 secret manuals and created your own sword technique, the Tianqin Sword Technique, which combines the strengths of hundreds of swordsmen. Your potential has increased. With Su Mo's current level of swordsmanship, he has already touched the threshold of the Dao, while all the sword techniques in the world are still just within the realm of art. Based on his understanding of Kendo, he can create countless sword techniques in an instant. However, although swordsmanship is just a technique-like moves, it is the best carrier to carry Kendo and even to bring out the realm of Kendo. Only the sword technique that suits you best can enable you to fully display your sword realm. Therefore, Su Emo must create his own sword technique to carry his own Tao. Fortunately, over the past year, after painstakingly studying countless secrets in Jiangna, Su Emo has embarked on the path of creating his own swordsmanship. 2 years have passed, and Su Emo is ready to break through the overpass. You guys go back, I can make it by myself. Su Emo, turning around and looking at the people following behind him. That won't do. Crossing the Tongtian Bridge has always been a grand event for our sword sect. No one has been able to cross the Tongtian Bridge for hundreds of years. We have to witness a miracle, the sword sect leader said. You think I can do it? Su Emo tilted his head and asked. If the sword immortal is no longer capable, then there should be no one in this world who can do it, right? Mei Changqing blinked her beautiful eyes and said, All right. Su Emo nodded helplessly. Since you are giving me so much face, I have no power to refute anything. Come on, Elder Su. We support you. Elder Su is the best. He has the Tongtian Bridge in his hands. Elder Su, remember the formula you taught me. Don't panic when facing an illusion. Odd numbers change, but even numbers don't. Look at the quadrant for the symbol. Su Emo. What is going on? Su Emo pulled the corner of his mouth and looked at the disciples in the distance, waving flags and cheering, with tall banners full of words. Su Emo held his forehead with his hand, thinking that it was all his own fault. Su Emo shook his head, put these thoughts behind him, and calmed his mind. Tongtian Bridge is one of the forbidden areas of the sword sect. It is always surrounded by clouds and mist. Only when you take a step forward will the mist dissipate a little. To this day, no one has been able to cross the Tongtian Bridge completely for hundreds of years. At this moment, Su Emo took a step forward, and the clouds and mist retreated. An extremely sad sword intention came, striking directly into his heart, and even faintly infected Su Mo's mood. All the bad memories were brought back at this moment. There is the bitterness and helplessness of not being able to catch up with Luo Shi's progress in cultivation no matter how hard he tries. There was the pain of loss that I felt after breaking up with Luo Shi, which went deep into my bones. There is self-blame and guilt for not being able to protect Su Xian. Deep in the sorrow of the sword, Su Mo's eyes turned red and gradually became moist, and he even had the urge to commit suicide. But the next moment, his gaze suddenly became firm and sharp as a knife. No one can stop me from going home. Even if there are thousands of difficulties and dangers, I can overcome them with one sword. Ding, you feel inexplicable sorrow after realizing the sword intent. You stick to your heart, understand yourself, and break through yourself. Your sword realm +10, experience value +100,000 inch. Is this what inexplicable grief is? Suemo murmured to himself, the moment the sword rushed into his body. After going through the entire experience of inexplicable grief, he had come to some understanding. The next moment, a wave of sad sword intent erupted from Sumo's body, infecting the entire world. Used to counter the inexplicable grief of Tongtian Bridge, the two sword intentions clashed and actually seemed to be competing with each other. Ding, you have been washed away by the inexplicable grief of the sword intent, and have comprehended the silent grief of the sword intent. Your sword realm plus 100, experience value plus 1 million. Suemo took the next step. An inexplicable sword force suddenly surged from Tongtian Bridge. A strong desire began to sweep through Sumo's body. Sumo's eyes suddenly became blurred, and his handsome face flushed slightly. At this moment, he seemed to be in a hotel. Luo Shi in front of him had an exquisite and beautiful face with a blush on it, cherry lips, a delicate nose, charming eyes, and long eyelashes fluttering. Just a slight raise of her beautiful eyes could bring out some charm. Her slender legs were white, delicate, gorgeous, and eye-catching. She was sitting astride his legs, with her arms around his neck. She had a charming face, and she leaned her head lightly on his shoulder with her brows lowered, her breath smelling like orchid. Luo Shi's eyes revealed just the right amount of confusion. She leaned in his arms, her two bare hands drawing circles on his chest, as if she was ready for him to pick her. Suemo swallowed his saliva instantly, and felt his dantian surging like a burning fire. But the next moment, as if he had thought of something, his eyes instantly became clear again. My Luo Shi would never be like this. Don't even think about ruining my mood. Suemo had a serious face. At this moment, he was like Lu Xiaohui, who remained calm even when a woman's lap was in his arms. No matter how Luo Shi moved, he remained unmoved. Ding, you have comprehended the sword intent of the joyful sword. You have stayed true to your heart and realized yourself in the sword intent. Your sword realm plus 10, experience points plus 100,000. Ding, you have comprehended the sword intent of the joyful sword. Your sword realm plus 100, your experience value plus 1 million. Ding, you've been upgraded. The next moment, the illusion before his eyes disappeared, and Luo Shi disappeared as well. You think a mere illusion can seduce me? Suemo said with a serious face. My Luo Shi usually wears black stockings. This illusion doesn't understand me at all like my Luo Shi. Illusion. Suemo shook his head and stopped thinking about it, and gave himself a thumbs up for being a gentleman. Another step forward. At this moment, Sumo's eyes became indifferent, as if he was heartless and desireless, revealing the vicissitudes of life. Why did I suddenly have the idea of becoming a monk? Ding, you comprehend the ruthless sword, stick to your heart in the sword, and understand yourself. Sword realm plus 100, experience value plus 1 million. Ding, you comprehend the sword intent of the sword of love, stick to your heart in the sword intent, and understand yourself. The sword realm plus 10, experience value plus 1 million. Ding, you've been upgraded. Until the 99th step. Suemo took a step forward. Ding, you comprehend the sword intent of the heavenly sword. You stick to your heart and understand yourself in the sword intent. Your sword realm plus 10, experience value plus 1 million. Ding, you've been upgraded. Ding, your sword realm has broken through. Suddenly, the entire sword sect burst into shocking light. A sword force that overwhelms the world erupts from Tongtian Bridge and soars into the sky. The entire cloud layer was pierced, and a beam of light fell straight down from the sky, shining on Suemo. At this moment, Suemo was in the beam of light, like a god. Instantly, a strange memory flooded into Sumo's mind. Ding, you are accepting the sword sect inheritance. Oh my god! He actually survived. The legend. The legend is true, he is indeed the man destined by the founder of the sect who will make our sword sect flourish, and change the world situation 1,000 years later. The sword sect leader said with a trembling voice. He was already 300 years old, but at this moment he was as excited as a 300-year-old child. She is indeed a peerless evildoer. But didn't the ancestor say that the destined person is a girl? Mei Changqing also agreed, but then he paused and said this hesitantly while maintaining a dialectical spirit. Why do you care about these little details? The ancestor must have made mistakes sometimes. The sword sect leader said indifferently. Perhaps. Mei Changqing nodded without thinking too much about it, although she always felt that things were not that simple. How could the founder of the sect, the legendary man who broke the void, make a mistake in calculating gender? 1,000 years later, with the spiritual energy becoming increasingly weak, will there really be another person who breaks the void? Could it be him? Mei Changqing murmured, looking at Su Mo, who was in the light column like a god, with longing in her beautiful eyes. At this moment, they witnessed history. Ding, you are accepting the sword sect inheritance. Ding, you have comprehended the 10,000 swords returned to the origin. Because your swordsmanship is at an extremely high level, you have spontaneously entered the 10,000 swords returned to the origin. Ding, you have mastered the movement skill chasing the stars and the moon. The basic movement skill is automatically upgraded to chasing the stars and the moon. Ding, you have comprehended the Holy Spirit sword technique. Because your swordsmanship realm is extremely high, you have automatically comprehended the first level of the Holy Spirit sword technique, Sword 1, 2, Sword 18. Ding, you are receiving the sword inheritance, Sword Realm plus 100, experience value plus 1 million. Ding, you are receiving the sword inheritance, Sword Realm plus 100, experience value plus 1 million. Ding, you've been upgraded. The sword fighting inheritance lasted for half an hour, and the system would prompt the experience points gained about once every 10 minutes. And directly push Su Mo up 2 levels. At this time, Su Mo's realm has reached an unprecedented height. Name Su Mo. Age 16. Reputation 1 million, leader of the righteous path. Level 89, Grandmaster. Experience 2833245/100 million. Skills: Tianqin Sword Technique 1818, Perfect, Wanjianguizong January 20th, Beginner, Xingling Sword Technique January 25th, Beginner, Chasing the Stars and the Moon January 20th, Beginner. Talent: Sword Realm LV5 Sword Power. Items: Black Stockings, Special Small Pills, Vitality Medicine, Cure-All Pills, Purple Jade Flute, Special Lollipops 100, Ice Soul Flower 100, Qihong Sword, several strategy props. Evaluation: Best in the world. The sword technique with the highest potential is actually the Holy Spirit sword technique? Su Mo muttered to himself. The highest level of the Holy Spirit sword technique is actually level 25, and the early Changhong sword technique. Level 9 is the peak of perfection, and then there is nothing more to practice. These two sets of sword techniques are undoubtedly worlds apart. Nowadays, his most powerful means of attack is naturally the Tianqin sword technique he created himself. Because it was created by myself, this Tianqin sword technique was perfect as soon as it appeared. Nonsense, if he, the founder, can't achieve perfection, who else can? I never thought that my self-created sword technique could almost rival the sword sect's unique skills. Su Mo was delighted. He had not expected that his swordsmanship would be so impressive. You know, this Tianqin sword technique was originally mediocre. It was he who, based on the early Changhong sword technique and relying on his own understanding of the way of the sword, created the new Fire Dance Whirlwind sword technique. He created the 10th level in succession, and then the 18th level, and with the help of the Fire Dance Whirlwind, he became a Grandmaster. After that, he consulted various sword techniques in the sword pavilion of the sword sect, combining the strengths of hundreds of schools. It took him 4 years to create the Tianqin sword technique. The sword technique he created in 4 years is almost comparable to the 1,000-year-old heritage of the sword sect. It would be a lie for him to say he was not happy. This is the benefit of reaching a high level in swordsmanship. However, even with his current swordsmanship, the highest potential of his self-created swordsmanship is only level 18. It can be seen that the person who created the 10,000 swords returned to the origin, and even the Holy Spirit sword technique is far more powerful than him in the sword realm. This should be the most powerful martial art in this plane. I wonder if it can support me to practice to level 100. Looking at the Holy Spirit sword technique, 10,000 swords returning to the origin, and chasing the stars and the moon, Su Emo thought. At this time, some of his inner thoughts have quietly changed. If I can't conquer the Empress, or can't wait until she is born, then I will practice on my own. When I reach the maximum level, I will break through the void and leave. I just don't know where I will go after breaking through the void. Is it my original world? Thinking of this, Su Emo became worried again. He would not break the void unless it was absolutely necessary. A few months after stepping on the sky bridge, Su Emo came to Jianqi. As soon as they arrived here, the thousands of famous swords in the sword pool began to chirp like cicadas. The sword bodies trembled continuously. All the famous swords were pointing towards Su Emo, with the sword bodies slightly bent downward, as if bowing to him. It looked as if they were worshipping him. This is something that has never happened in the entire sword sect since ancient times. Since ancient times, if ordinary disciples came here to choose a sword, they would choose a master for the divine weapon. If someone liked your divine weapon, it would be a great honor, which meant that you had extraordinary talent in swordsmanship. And never before has it been like it is now. All the famous swords have bowed down to a figure. Brush. In the deepest part of the sword pond, at the center, on a high platform, stood a famous sword. There were no other famous swords around him. It seemed that there was only this sword within a kilometer radius. It is like the King of Swords, standing there quietly, occupying the most prominent position. At this moment, the sword body was shaking, as if it was about to break out of the sword. Squeak! The sword was still trembling and swaying from side to side. It seemed to be hesitant, worried, and afraid, with a sense of panic that made it dare not get close. Su Emo took a step forward. He also felt the shocking sword intent in the deepest part of the sword pool, as well as a faint, hazy, but clear consciousness. That consciousness, with the help of the sword intent, approached him cautiously, with a flattering attitude. Su Emo knew that it was the only sword in this sword pool that had borne intelligence. The reason why I am so scared at this moment is that I am afraid of being rejected by it. It has been here for thousands of years. For a conscious spiritual sword, it is extremely torturous. But it has never met a suitable owner, and as proud as it is, it will never recognize an owner easily. At this time, it finally encountered a master whose sword realm was far beyond its imagination, so it would naturally not let him go. At this moment, I actually want to gain his recognition. Brush. As if afraid that its ability wasn't demonstrated clearly enough, the spirit sword performed even more vigorously. A terrifying sword pressure burst out from the spiritual sword. All the famous swords in the sword pool were trembling at this moment. Su Emo smiled slightly and took a step forward. The consciousness soothed the spiritual wisdom of the spiritual sword, with encouragement. The next moment. Brush. A flash of cold light flashed across the sky, several miles away. Call out. The sword had already flown from the deepest part of the sword pool directly into Su Emo's hands. The famous sword cicada chirped incessantly, as if cheering, and flew around Su Emo again and again. Su Emo raised his hand, and the famous sword flew into his hand spontaneously. This is a long sword that is azure blue in color, with strange patterns engraved all over it, which is extremely gorgeous. The sword is incredibly beautiful, as gorgeous and dazzling as a work of art. There are also some special symbols embellishing it, as if engraved with runes of the Great Way, returning to nature. Holding it in the hand, it feels light and has an indescribable texture, and it feels excellent. Ding! Because your swordsmanship is at an extremely high level, the soul-devouring sword has spontaneously recognized you as its master. Name: Soul-devouring sword. Rank: Legend, low-grade spiritual sword. Level: 80 Grandmaster. Evolution points: 12/1000. Talent: Soul-devouring, evolution, spiritual communication. Soul Devourer can devour killing energy, sword intent, spiritual power, etc. to repair damaged sword body, evolve itself, and improve its own grade in spiritual intelligence. Evolution can comprehend the host sword realm and gain evolution. Spiritual. This sword is spiritual, it will protect its master spontaneously, and it can transform after evolution. Evaluation. Carved with the heavenly heart seal of a world, the Tao rune, it is naturally endowed with the ability to continuously evolve, and has great potential. Although this sword is a spirit sword, it can kill immortals. Is this spirit sword real? It has even transformed. I'm afraid it's not just a random sword to fool me, right? Suemo muttered as he touched the blade of the soul-devouring sword. And a sword that has the strength of a grandmaster? Good fellow, how can you make the sword sex leader feel? You know, the sword sex leader is only level 79, the peak of the grandmaster level. In other words, the sword sex leader still can't defeat a sword. It seems that the true foundation of the sword sect is a sword. Master. Master. A timid voice came from Lingjian's hazy consciousness. It seems that he is afraid that his master will be angry and dislike him, so he is very cautious. Like a shy little girl. So shy? Then from now on, just call me Shujio. As soon as the words fell, the soul-devouring sword panel appeared. In the name column, the 3 words, soul-devouring sword, disappeared and were replaced by Xiaojio. Name Shujio. Rank, legend, low-grade spiritual sword. At the same time, the soul-devouring sword's hilt glowed with golden light, and 2 cuneiform characters slowly began to appear. As if it was engraved on it, it revealed an astonishing sword intent Xiaojio. Xiaojio? Why does this name sound so familiar? Suemo stroked his chin and thought. Thank you, master, for giving me a name. At this moment, Xiaojio's hazy consciousness came from the sword body. Like a 3-year-old child, he spoke slowly and with great effort. You're welcome. Your master is always very good at naming. Suemo was a little pleased with himself. Then there was a flash of sword light, and Xiaojio disappeared with it. At this time, in a deep forest, an ant with a silver glow all over its body was still working hard for a bad master. At this moment, his eyes flashed with ferocity. His body had grown to the size of a puppy, and he was crawling towards a tiger that was many times bigger than him. It looked like he was preparing for a sneak attack. After a tough fight, the unsportsmanlike ant defeated the big tiger. Xiaolu is not a waste. A faint sound came from the mouth of the silver ant. Next, Suemo began to practice sword skills diligently. You can often see the sky of the sword sect, with amazing sword intent filling half the sky. Endless sword energy broke through the clouds, forming an astonishing vision. This kind of strange phenomenon happened every day, and over time it became a great wonder in the sword sect. This monster, I'm afraid his realm has already reached above Grandmaster. The sword sect's leader felt the astonishing sword intent and the terrifying aura fluctuations that came from the sky from time to time. Said with a complicated expression, I'm not afraid of a gifted person with great talent, but I'm afraid of him being extremely hardworking despite his talent. Isn't there a bottleneck for him practicing sword every day like this? When will it end? If Suemo knew, he would have to tell him. There is really no bottleneck in the life of a person hanging on the wall. As long as you practice sword skills, you will gain proficiency, and you can also upgrade. I guess he will stop practicing until he reaches perfection, but the supreme inheritance of the sword sect is not so easy to practice. Mei Chongqing shook his head and sighed, then seemed to remember something and said, It seems that he is very likely the person who will break the void in the legend. In this world where spiritual energy is becoming increasingly scarce, he is probably the only one who can break through the void. The days passed one by one, and soon a year passed. Ding, you used the 10,000 swords returned to the origin, skill proficiency plus 1,000, experience value plus 1 million. Ding, you used the Holy Spirit sword technique, sword 18, skill proficiency plus 1,000, experience value plus 1 million. Ding, your level has been upgraded. Ding, your spirit sword Xiaojiu has realized the true meaning of the sword art of Wanjian Guizong, and the evolution skill is activated. Evolution point +1, experience +1 million. Ding, your spirit sword Xiaojiu has been upgraded to a higher level. Now Su Mo's realm has reached a whole new level. Name Su Mo. Age 17. Reputation 1 million, leader of the righteous path. Level 92, seeing God is not bad. Experience 2833245/100 million. Skills Tianqin Sword Technique 1818, perfect. Wanjian Guizong May 20th, minor success. Xingling Sword Technique May 25th, minor success. Jixing Zhu Wei 420, minor success. Talent Sword Realm LV5 Sword Power. Items Black Stockings, Special Small Pills, Vitality Medicine, Cure-All Pills, Purple Jade Flute, Special Lollipops 100, Ice Soul Flower 100, Qinghong Sword, several strategy props. Evaluation Best in the world. Now Su Mo, after obtaining the inheritance of the Sword Sect. After this period of diligent practice, he finally made the 10,000 swords return to the origin, Holy Spirit Sword Technique, and chasing the stars and the moon entered the realm of minor success. Correspondingly, his cultivation level has surpassed that of the Grand Master and reached a new realm, where he can be invincible when facing gods. This realm has reached the end of the martial arts system of this world. If one goes one step further, he will probably break through the void. This year, Su Mo turned 17. In his memory, the simulator recorded the appearance of a very important character this year. He immediately opened the simulator's records and started checking. At the age of 11, you began to practice, but your progress was slow. At the age of 17, your master brought back another girl, who is your junior sister. At the age of 18, your master handed the little sister to you and asked you to teach her how to practice. At the age of 19, your junior sister's cultivation progressed rapidly. In just 1 year, you could no longer teach her anything. In a competition, she defeated you with a single sword strike. At the age of 20, you went down the mountain to gain experience and participated in the martial arts competition. Your junior sister's talent shocked the audience. At the age of 14, she was invincible. No contestant could stop her sword. In the end, she won the first prize. You failed to enter the audition in this competition. At the age of 21, your junior sister started to go on her own to gain experience, and you stayed alone in the monastery. At the age of 23, you were killed by the enemy of junior sister, and you died. In the reincarnation, she went up the mountain this year and became my junior sister. I wonder if she will come up the mountain again this year? Will the influence I bring affect her? Since she was brought here by Mei Changqing, then this matter will probably fall on Mei Changqing's shoulders. Su Mo murmured to himself, then frowned again. But Mei Changqing is a homebody now. It's unclear whether she will go out. In his speculation, he felt that this junior sister was very suspicious and was most likely the one with the status of the Empress. After all, her life experience is full of protagonist templates. There was a good-for-nothing senior brother who, after 1 year of training, surpassed the senior brother. In 3 years he became invincible. Don't be too talented. No matter what, we have to try. Su Mo calmed down a little, then turned into a ray of light and disappeared. When he appeared again, he was already in front of Mei Changqing's hill. Junior Master, your cultivation has been stagnant for too long. Do you want to move towards a higher level of martial arts? Coming in front of Mei Changqing, Su Mo said with a mysterious look on his face, patiently persuading him. Because Mei Changqing is Long Xiuhu's senior sister, calling her Mei Changqing sounds more intimate. In no mood. Mei Changqing shook his head and refused without thinking. Do you want to join me in 1 year, half a year, and become a Grand Master? Or in 1 year, and reach a level above Grand Master? Su Mo asked again persistently. In no mood. Mei Changqing still shook his head. Su Mo was at a loss. Why was the temptation of the highest realm of martial arts that everyone yearned for useless to Mei Changqing? Do you think I'm an idiot? Do you think everyone is as perverted as you? Mei Changqing rolled his eyes. She is very clear about her own qualifications, and the master of martial arts is the highest level. She then asked, Okay, what do you want to say? I think you should go down the mountain. There's no future for being a stay-at-home girl. Su Emo added quietly in his heart. How did you know I was going out? I was just about to say goodbye to you. Mei Changqing was a little surprised and said, Did the sect master tell you? So that's why you came here early to say goodbye to me? Is there such a coincidence? Su Emo was stunned. Ah, yes. After a while, Su Emo had no choice but to nod his head against his will. You're a good kid with a bit of conscience. Okay, I get it, go away. Su Emo shrugged his shoulders. Anyway, the goal for today was achieved. After saying goodbye, I went back. Watching Su Emo leave, a cunning look appeared in Mei Changqing's beautiful eyes. Who told the sect master that I was leaving? This silly boy is so easy to fool. But you dared to chase me away. Aren't you an idler? Are you devoted to cultivation? Then I will really go out and find you a disciple. I will make you suffer to death. Mei Changqing thought with some pride, then flew away on the wind. A few months later this day, Su Emo was practicing the art of 10,000 swords, wielding sword energy at the edge of the clouds. Ding! It is detected that the person with the status of the Empress has gone up the mountain. Please check it out. Warm reminder, since ancient times, deep affection cannot be retained, only routines can win people's hearts. Su Emo. Sumo's eyes were filled with tears and he almost stumbled and fell from the sky. Owner. Fortunately, there is Xiaojiu. Xiaojiu just let out a soft and cute cry, and then with a whoosh, he was caught by the sword. I'm fine, hurry, help me down. Su Emo said tremblingly. His expression was rarely out of control. Yes, master. Brush. Xiaojiu suddenly accelerated and came to the direction Su Emo pointed. When he looked at the small figure following behind Mei Changqing, he felt a special attraction from the status of the Empress, which was mysterious. This person's identity has been revealed. Su Emo couldn't help but burst into tears. There was an indescribable excitement and complexity in my heart. 17 years. 17 whole years. Do you know how he survived these 17 years? These 17 years. He just accidentally became famous all over the world, became the elder of the Sword Sect, and became the best in the world. But I will not be at peace until I find someone worthy of the title of Empress. At this moment, with the appearance of a person with the status of an Empress, the big stone in his heart finally fell. Maybe it's fate. In the previous life, the person who held the status of Empress was her junior sister. In this life, she still came to the Sword Sect as fate had arranged. And logically speaking, Mei Changqing is his junior uncle, so this Empress can still be considered his junior sister. With this relationship, it will be easy to conquer. After all, which junior sister doesn't like to have a senior brother who is extremely talented and powerful? Thinking of this, 3 countermeasures and 5 policies against his junior sister quickly flashed through his mind. At this time, rushing up to say hello would definitely be a bad idea. Not only does it seem abrupt and awkward, but it also makes it difficult to leave a good impression. Remember, what women value most is the first impression. So think about it for a moment. Su Emo cleared his throat, straightened his sleeves, and took out an ancient mirror to look at himself. Yeah, not bad, still very handsome. Su Emo nodded with satisfaction. At this time, he was 17 years old again. It's the same age as when I left the main world. So I look exactly like myself in the main world. But there are some things that seem to be true. This difference is more reflected in temperament. At this time, Su Emo, with the growth of these years, has long left behind his original childishness. His figure was tall and upright, and his waist was as straight as a sword. He has sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, and a handsome appearance. A pair of eyes that seem to contain as deep as the sea of stars, making people unforgettable upon seeing them. The appearance is the same as before, perfect and impeccable. But the temperament is completely different. Suemo now has a kind of otherworldly aura, as well as the sword energy that protects his body. At first glance, he is like a banished immortal, which makes people fall in love with him, but at the same time, he also has an indestructible aura. Under his lofty realm, he also feels unattainable. Before, it was more filled with campus atmosphere, filled with lush grass, flying birds, gentle breeze and bright moon, as well as the youthful vigor and ambition unique to teenagers. These are two completely different senses. Suemo was very satisfied with his image, and was thinking quickly about how to make his debut. There was a flash of determination in his eyes. Brush. Suemo shook lightly, using his body skills to chase the stars and the moon, and his afterimage flashed by. So he arrived in advance at a road that Mei Changqing and the others had to take. It was a peach garden growing on a cliff. Being surrounded by clouds and mist all year round, it has an even more ethereal air. The reason for coming here is naturally to create a chance encounter. At the same time, for the sake of showing off. This situation and scene is exactly the most suitable scenery for a young girl in love. The right time and place are all there, but the right people are lacking. And looking at the two people who are about to walk towards this place, Suemo raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Now Renha has also arrived. He is about to start performing. He raised his hand and summoned the purple jade flute that he hadn't used for a long time from his backpack. Take a deep breath, put it gently to your lips and play it. Just a real show. Woo! The clear sound of the flute sounded softly, echoing leisurely among the green mountains and clouds. With the help of the system, you can play the music just once and reach the master level in a matter of minutes. At this time, what Suemo needs to do is to integrate his sword realm into the melodious flute sound and play it out. At the same time, mixed with his own strong emotions, he played together his deep longing for Luoshi and his unbreakable love. Only the most sincere emotions can touch people's hearts. Woo! The melodious flute music began. It seemed to be telling a story, telling about the first meeting with Luoshi, how they got to know each other, and his first immature and ignorant confession. The blazing emotions infected everyone. At this moment, everyone in the sword sect couldn't help but slow down their pace and listen quietly to the flute's sound. And the stories in the flute music. On that bright and clear morning, without any prior preparation. It was just a rude and vulgar, "Be my girlfriend." Then the boy wanted to find a hole to crawl into, ready to be laughed at by everyone. As a result, that crisp, "okay," made a lot of people drop their jaws, including the boy himself. The boy never dreamed that the girl would agree to him. Because the girl is a goddess admired by everyone, a top student with excellent character and academic performance, and the undisputed number one. The boy, on the other hand, was an average passerby who no one cared about, a poor student with no qualifications for cultivation, and a complete waste. They are people from two different worlds. But unexpectedly, they got together. On the cliff, a handsome young man in white clothes, who looks like a banished immortal, holds a jade flute in his hand, sits under a peach tree, and quietly plays a piece of music, telling a story of life. At this time, no one noticed. It was not the season for peach blossoms to bloom, and the peach trees were left with only bare branches. However, along with the melodious sound of the flute, they suddenly began to sprout. Woo! The melodious flute sound continues, slowly telling a story from the past. The boy at that time could not become a warrior, and his useless qualifications were ridiculed by his classmates. It was the girl who told everyone in the class with a cold and firm voice, "Suemo is not a waste." Then the girl secretly gave half of the training resources she obtained after each major exam to the boy. Then I continued to tutor the boy until the evening every day. Finally, after the unremitting efforts of the boy and the girl, they succeeded in slapping her in the face. Well, I successfully slapped the girl in the face, further proving that the boy is indeed an indisputable waste. This fact. The girl was slapped in the face. She was so proud. She was so beautiful. This was the first time she was slapped in the face. She really couldn't handle it. Then she fell silent. However, he has not given up and still insists on giving the boy extra lessons every day and providing him with more training resources. Otherwise, with the boy's aptitude for cultivation, he might never become a warrior in his entire life. Failure to become a warrior means that the boy cannot even afford to go to university, and in this era of global spiritual revival, he may remain an inferior person all his life. But even if the girl used all her cultivation resources to supply Suemo, she could only push the boy to the third stage of Hidden Yuan, a realm that was neither high nor low. But he is still far from the girl's level of cultivation. Because of the difference in rank between the two sides, a barely perceptible hint of loneliness flashed across the boy's eyes. The girl began to clumsily suppress her own progress in cultivation, just to consider the boy's dignity as her boyfriend. Whenever a boy starts to doubt his life, at this time, the girl will take the initiative to hug him and encourage him over and over again. She said, "My Suemo is not a waste." She said, "My Suemo is just too tired, he needs to rest." She said, "My Suemo, I'll protect her." Woo! The melodious flute sound continued, and every disciple of the sword sect listened quietly to the flute sound. At this moment, no one speaks, no one walks, no one disturbs. Even the birds in the sky, eagles, white cranes, etc. It stopped flapping its wings and instead landed on the cliff or the huge peach tree. Listen to the flute sound quietly. The wind stopped and people became quiet. Everything is quiet. Only the huge peach tree was still sprouting and growing silently. After a while, buds appeared on the tree, ready to bloom. Woo! The flute music continued. Suemo and Luoshi once walked hand in hand through the streets and alleys, drank the same cup of milk tea, and used the same straw. We have watched dusk and sunset together, counted shooting stars and autumn songs together. They have been to every place a couple should go, and done everything a couple should do. They were once the most enviable couple. Luoshi would never refuse any request Suemo made, no matter how willful and unreasonable he was. So this time, it's the same. Suemo proposed breaking up. Luoshi was stunned. Even though she was an obedient person, she didn't agree immediately this time. Instead, she asked, "Have you thought about it? You said you've made up your mind." Luoshi didn't refuse anymore. She just trembled slightly. But if you are familiar with her, how could you not notice it? In the end, she just nodded and said, "I understand. I'm leaving now." But you clearly heard the tremor in her voice. On June 6, 3 years ago, you confessed your love to her. Today, 3 years later, you break up with her and leave her in the crowd. The flute music ends, but the lingering sound remains. Under the peach trees in the garden, it is as beautiful as a picture. The young man in white stood there holding a flute, unable to recover from the deep emotion in the flute music. No matter what his purpose was when he blew the whistle at the beginning, once he really started, his emotions could no longer be suppressed. He originally just wanted to leave a deep impression on the Empress's people, but in the end, he was the one who was deeply trapped. Through the sound of the flute, his one-sided emotions and longing for Luoshi could no longer be suppressed and burst out. Suemo felt bitter. He stood under the peach blossoms, his white robe fluttering. At this moment, he exuded a strong sense of sadness. There is a vague feeling that I am out of tune with the world. He just stood there quietly, tall and handsome, yet seemed not to belong to this world, not to exist in this ancient history, unique and independent. At some point, all the peach blossoms in the garden fell. In this season when peach blossoms should not be in full bloom, a song breaks my heart. Peach blossoms are falling. The gentle and graceful young man in white stretched out his hand and caught a fallen peach blossom. Luoshi! Suemo muttered to himself, looking at the peach blossoms, and stood there for a long time. He was filled with bitter emotions. He missed home and Luoshi very much. At this time, "Did you see the guy in white clothes playing the flute?" "Yes, that's him. There's nothing wrong with him except that he likes to show off. She's just a little bit better at martial arts, a little bit more good-looking, and a little bit more talented. Mei Changqing's voice came from behind. Su Mo knew that her purpose of creating the encounter had been achieved, but she didn't know what kind of impression she had left on the person with the status of the Empress. Amid the falling peach blossoms in the garden, he turned around and looked back. Luoshi, this is your future master, go and call him. Luoshi? Why are you crying? Don't cry, are you missing home again? Mei Changqing's voice kept coming, but Su Mo could no longer hear it clearly. In the falling red peach blossoms, he saw the small figure clearly through the gaps. Boom! The moment he saw the figure clearly, Su Mo's mind was struck by lightning. Su Mo stood there stiffly, his mind blank. He stared at the girl blankly, unable to speak for a long time. At this moment, in his mind, there was nothing else except the girl's figure. The girl seemed a little scared by Su Mo's gaze and subconsciously shrank behind Mei Changqing. Tears were still flowing out of her delicate little face like pearls that had broken off a string. She wiped her tears with her little hands, looked timidly at the big brother in white, and sobbed softly. Luoshi didn't know either, but when Luoshi looked at this big brother and listened to her flute music, she couldn't help but shed tears. Su Mo's mind seemed to have frozen. Apart from the figure of the little girl, there was nothing else. The same exquisite facial features, the same name, and even the same voice. How could there be two people in this world who are so similar? This is clearly a smaller version of Luoshi. Or rather, Luoshi when he was 11 or 12 years old. Su Mo had seen Luoshi's previous photos, so she naturally knew her very well. He can tell the difference even if there is only a tiny bit of hair. But the girl at this moment was exactly the same. But how could there be such a coincidence when the worlds are all different? You blockhead, why don't you answer when a little girl calls you? Mei Changqing poked Su Mo's shoulder, bringing him back to reality from his daze. Master, master! The little Luoshi in front of him cried out weakly. Hello. Affected by Xiao Luoshi's emotions, Su Mo also became nervous all of a sudden. Then he seemed to realize something and reacted. That's not right. What did she call me? Su Mo asked. I call you master. This is the disciple I found especially for you. Are you satisfied? There aren't many pretty girls like this. Don't teach me bad things. Mei Changqing winked at Su Mo with an expression that said, This is what I should do, no need to thank me. Su Mo was completely confused. The original status of the Empress became Luoshi, which was not enough. She was supposed to be a junior sister, but now she has become his disciple? This Luoshi from another world became his disciple? Master! Luoshi was still calling there weakly. Hey! Yes, master is here! Su Mo said stubbornly, and then a suspicious blush rose on his face. Oh my god, Luoshi used to tutor my disappointing boyfriend. Now I am her master? This is the first time that master meets you, so I don't have anything to prepare. Take this. As he spoke, Su Mo took out a golden treasure. This is the most advanced defensive weapon in the world, capable of blocking a grandmaster's attack. It was the trophy that Su Mo obtained when he massacred Shirayun village. And this? Su Mo took out another silver ball. This is the Thunderbolt, a rare hidden weapon in the world. When it is fully unleashed, even a master can be seriously injured. Oh yes, life-saving pills are also essential for cultivation. As he spoke, Su Mo took out another bottle of pills. Life-saving pills, great restoration pills, life-enhancing pills. He took out a bunch of things from the backpack one after another. Soon, all the valuable things in Su Mo's backpack were taken out by him. Luoshi's two little hands held a bunch of golden and glittering treasures that were obviously not ordinary treasures. After doing all this, it still feels like it's not enough. Su Mo also handed over the sword in his hand. Shijio was dumbfounded. Seeing that his master was going to give him away, he was totally at a loss. Master, don't! I'm Xiaojio Awowu! Xiaojio's thoughts came frantically, and the sword body trembled slightly. Su Mo turned a deaf ear to Xiaojio's thoughts and was about to hand it over, but found that Xiao Luoxi had no hands to take it. Master, master! Luoxi was also completely stunned. It is very tiring to carry too many things. She used all her strength to hold the handful of things, and her little face was flushed. Is this a test from Master? To train my strength and perseverance? To prevent me from losing anything? No! Luoxi is not afraid. I can't fall. I can't let Master down. Xiao Luoxi thought firmly. You can be so cruel to your disciple. Even Mei Changqing thought the same as Luoxi. I've handed the person over to you. I'll leave first. After saying this, he flew away. Only Su Mo, who was still thinking about what else he could give as a gift, was confused. Once it comes to Luoxi's affairs, his IQ will drop. After a long while, I saw Luoxi sweating and her face flushed. Only then did I react and put all the props away again. Seeing that his body felt lighter, Luoxi was delighted. Master, I held on. I didn't drop anything. I think I have completed the test you gave me. Ah, well, not bad. This kid is teachable. Su Mo said with a stiff upper lip. Looking at Xiao Luoxi's red face, he felt so guilty and heartbroken that he wanted to find a piece of tofu to beat himself to death. He hadn't seen Luoxi for 17 years, and suddenly saw someone who looked exactly like him. You can imagine how he felt. It was already very restrained that they didn't kidnap the person directly, and just talk to each other about their true feelings. In his eyes, this is exactly the same as Luoxi when she was a child. He can't help but regard her as his own Luoxi. For a moment, I just wanted to give her all my best things, but ended up with this misunderstanding. Su Mo felt a little guilty and patted her little head, smiling encouragingly. Not bad, you have completed the master's test. Here, this is for you. After saying that, Su Mo took out something that was truly suitable for little girls. A special lollipop. Luoxi took the lollipop, held it in her hand, and then didn't know what to do. This is for eating. It's sweet. You should like it. Su Mo explained. Oh, Xiao Luoxi nodded to show that she understood. Then, without any suspicion, she opened her mouth and took the lollipop, which was still wrapped in a plastic bag, into her mouth. Luoxi had a bitter face. This doesn't taste good either. Could it be another test from her master? A test of her hard-working spirit? Su Mo couldn't help laughing, and immediately helped her open the plastic bag. Remember next time to open the plastic bag first, Su Mo said as he unpacked it, then handed the lollipop to her red lips and said lovingly, I'll open your mouth. Luoxi opened her mouth obediently, and Su Mo fed the lollipop into her mouth. The moment Luoxi put the lollipop in his mouth, his eyes lit up. Then, as she ate, her little tears began to flow again. She held the lollipop in her mouth while wiping away her tears with her little hands. What's wrong, Luoxi? Don't you like eating? Su Mo frowned. No, master. Luoxi shook her head desperately and said with a choked voice. It's just that Luoxi has never eaten anything so delicious, woo. She had never experienced this feeling before. The most she had ever eaten in her life was the steamed corn bread from home. A sweet lollipop. You can imagine how big of an impact it had on Luoxi. She probably has never tasted sweetness in her life. Ding, Luoxi's favorability plus 10. Current favorability 30 close. Looking at Xiao Luoxi who was eating the lollipop seriously, Su Mo couldn't help but feel heartbroken. Then he squatted down, gently wiped her tears, and said softly, Be good, Luoxi, don't cry. There will be more in the future. On this sunny morning, Su Mo squatted down and made a solemn promise to the little girl.